Hello, hello, mates. How's it going? Today we're stepping in for alternate visuals and Spare and Magic Helmet. We're doing a little bit of Aussie love. It's gonna be a little wild, a little different than the usual, but it's gonna be great. Gonna be real great, mates. So get ready for some Aussie special with our guest hosts, Mr. Aussie himself and Mrs. Aussie, who sounds surprisingly like a black man. Oh, good. I feel like I feel like this is the nicest thing you've said to me in not maybe ever, but in a very long time. I'm kind of ambitious and like about this whole thing. What? No, I just think that like I'm kind of ambitious about my whole racism thing, and like it just feels good to know that like I did good. It's a race. Race. Well, it's complicated to call it a race. I will say that because um it's like calling someone American. Like they're American is a race, but there's an indigenous people that you've got to address. You know what I mean? To properly call it a race. Chase is on the case. I didn't know you liked Paw Patrol. Chase is one of the characters in Paw Patrol. That's what you meant. No, that's what you meant. You're just embarrassed. You don't have to be embarrassed that you watch Paw Patrol. It's okay for a man to watch Paw Patrol. It's okay. I hear it and I accept that about you. Are you talking about Power Rangers? There's four whole episodes left. I don't know what they is left to tell, but there's four episodes left. Is it really going to be four episodes of just pure fighting? Well, isn't that what's left? I'm going by a Reddit post that a Reddit post recently said there was four episodes left, and I thought that must be true because of the Reddit post, but I could be wrong. Mm.
Apparently, my microphone wasn't being detected, so that first bit was all spear. That was the spear magic helmet show you just had at the very beginning of this one, just a rarity. I can't shut up. I hate that. I hate you, by the way. I just want to point that out. I saw what you typed. Don't you pretend you can't hear me or talk back. How dare you? How dare you? There he goes again. I'm glad this isn't being like no one can see what's being typed in the chat. Find it offensive. I find this characterization of me offensive. But as you can hear me now, we're here to talk about the recent episode of My Hero Academia. Apparently, according to Spirit, he has a lot to say. So apparently, Spirit has a lot to say. So we're gonna just dive right into this.
Pause. You had to stop and soak that in for a second. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
No, I've seen that in Reddit. It still boggles my mind. But it's like I found the type of word that is because there's more words that do that. But you're here to talk about My Hero Academia as I said before, Spirit. I can barely. I got this. I got OBS on a 4K screen, so there's a lot of pixels.
Pixels?
There's a lot more pixels that I can
You
see.
want to talk about pixels right now? We have like the greatest My Hero Academia episode to date.
I said I can't.
And you want to talk about
there's a
pixels?
lot. Like I got more room on a screen that I have the stream platform on. Back to what I was
What
about
does
to
it
say.
matter? Oh, you just have a still with like a rostered text on the bottom. Like you could have all the pixels in the world, but it's just like a still image on the screen.
I play video games on this screen, bastard. But back to what I was saying before I got really interrupted and then apparently called out. This episode of My Hero Academia Spirit has a lot to say, so we're just gonna jump right into it. I guess you wanted to hear my thoughts on this. So first of all, after I had watched this episode, the frick? Oh, it's my mother watching football. Sorry, I'm hearing a lot of foot tapping downstairs. But basically, I unironically called the first half of this episode, and I am not happy about it. I wasn't really being serious. I kind of just said what I said last week, just as a way to just to be contrarian to like my view of how this was gonna go. I understand this has to go this way, narratively speaking. I'm just mad I called it. Basically, anybody who doesn't know what I called, it was basically after Deku gets into Shigaraki's mind, to see what happened in Shigaraki's past. Basically, Shigaraki loses the will to fight, not by a lot, but it was enough that I would say that would make him weak enough to be taken over by All For One. And when that happened, I had to pause the video and scream because I called that, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" I called everything but the Psyche killing that I wasn't expecting. I did not know that was the card that he was holding on to. Which I'm honestly going to sit there and say, I don't think you knew that was the card either, because you were wondering what the card he was even talking about before. So I don't know. It was just...
What card are you talking about? I'm sorry?
Like, All For One said he had a card that he was wondering if he needed to play a card that he was holding on to. And you made mention of what was All For One even talking about. Like, when he said, like, he had a card to play. I think it was, like, when Bakugo was pummeling him. All For One mentioned he had, like, some, like, I guess, ulterior, some other plan, but he wasn't sure if he needed to activate it or not, or he wasn't trying to activate it during the time before Shigaraki had like pretty much resisted his will. He said, but All For One says that he plays the card, and that apparently the card he was talking about was essentially destroying Shigaraki's psyche. My initial idea was he was just gonna push Shigaraki so far down in his mind that Shigaraki will be drowning. This is so far from that. That is like he has destroyed like his id. I think he even mentions that that's what he calls that personality that Shigaraki had is an id. What do you have to say about the first half of this episode and what progressed?
The whole first half is what you want me to talk about all at once?
You could tell the bits and pieces of it or go along with it. I mean, the whole first half, like
I tell you, I have a lot to say about the episode, and you want me to summarize the whole first half in my first sentence?
No, that's not what I said. What?
You're a terrible person.
You just want to be antagonistic today, don't you?
You're a terrible person. You are an unworthy human being.
Oh, my character is just being assassinated tonight. Or lack thereof.
Well, you can't spell assassinated without ass, so. Okay, so if you want me to lead with some of my notes, one of the first note I made was I thought it was interesting how Nana, who had said she wasn't strong enough before to break through and do what she needed to do, like now found the strength to break through the barrier when she finally sees what happened to her grandson. I thought that was interesting character development for Nana. I want to say the character, but like I don't know if vestiges really count as the actual character or not. But it's as close to character development for a dead character as you could possibly get. But I thought that was interesting that she only realized finally, like whatever she needed to do to be strong enough, like clearly she was always strong enough for whatever she needed to do. It was more the motivation, and she finally got the motivation to break through when she realized what had happened to her grandson. And I'm gonna jump down to a note that, well, I'll give you a second to respond to that first, and then I'm gonna jump down to a note that I have about that later in the episode that I think could come in now.
I mean, just to clarify what that all was about, I think it was just to show. At first, she didn't know. At first she didn't know what part she had played in all this. She just knew she played a part. When she saw that her son was essentially, before we get to the more important bit about her son, but you know, when she was still living, her quirk factor was able to determine that she played a part in what caused her son to go down the path of violence, basically being a horrible person, and you know, hitting her son. I have expected that image of the father. I'm glad they didn't do it, but I have expected it to turn to her and like suddenly it's like mom and then disappear. It was kind of cool that the way that she disappeared, and it was kind of like the way Shigaraki's decay works. It's how she kind of just faded away after breaking through. But yeah, basically it was just her coming to terms with everything, that she played a factor, because she even says as she's disappearing that, you know, it is my fault, it is grandma's fault that this all happened to you. Though again, we find out later on more about all that later, but it was basically she found the strength basically because when she realized what she needed to do, which was like protect her grandson, even though she couldn't do it now because she's dead.
Yeah, but she was the last, like, that barrier that they couldn't break through was not because of something Shigaraki put up in the moment. That barrier was the barrier to the final layer of the core of Shigaraki that wasn't broken through because they needed every single one of the vestiges to properly break through it. So she didn't find the strength to get through until she realized, I think, the stakes.
I think she just did find that she just realized that she was kind of at fault and she accepted it. Because beforehand, she wasn't really accepting her part and all.
But I think until that moment, not only did she realize that it was her fault, but I think until that moment, hang on, she was thinking about killing him. I think when she saw what was happened to him as a child from her son, I think that there was a moment there where not only did she realize that it was her fault, but she also realized that he didn't deserve to die in her eyes. Not saying your eyes or the actual truth, but I think in her eyes, she realized at that moment, I don't want to kill him now.
I mean,
And
my
that was
opinion
what gave her the ability to break through and join the plan to try to save Shigaraki, which everybody else had already bought into, rather than kill him, because the others had broken through with the goal of saving him, not killing him.
No, I hear you. I was gonna say my opinion on Shigaraki dying is changed, obviously, because of what happens in the second half. But yeah, that's a part of the other part I kind of like. I'm not happy with is, I was swayed into okay, but we're not gonna talk about that right now.
What?
No, I was like, that's gonna be saved for the second half. I don't think, like second half of the episode. I just didn't want to say it now.
So the point that I was going to say later, I had in my notes to say later, but I'm going to go ahead and say now, is that in this show, and maybe I'll bring it up again later as well. I'll bring it up several times. I'll go ahead and bring it up because there's a few different times that it comes up in this episode. See, through the whole series, not just this show, but not just this episode, but through the whole series, Deku especially, but also the other characters, like, demonstrate that a real hero, and you're gonna hate this because of the Endeavor part, but the real, true, most wonderful heroes in this show are not there to physically stop people from doing evil so much as they're there to save the souls of people and to make people better people where possible. And I would say that one of the first times we see this, other than All Might himself, like, being the symbol of peace, and that being, even though he's the strongest character, what really is driven home is that not so much that he's the strongest character so much as he's the symbol of peace. And Deku giving up, sacrificing his well-being pretty much permanently with permanent scars and physical damage to himself in the tournament against Todoroki to try to get Todoroki to overcome his mental limits about using his ice abilities is another example. But what we have here is that thread that's been built up through the whole series, of how a hero's purpose isn't to save people physically so much as it is to save them emotionally and to save the spirit of the society and things like that. I think that is important to point out. And I think if you really sit down and think about it, it happens through all of the seasons have it. Like Stain. The reason Stain picked out Deku and All Might as the only true heroes is because those are the two, up to that point, that we see trying to save souls rather than save bodies. And I think maybe that is one of the reasons I'm not as big of a fan of Endeavor, because Endeavor is a peacekeeper, and he's a soldier of good and a enforcer of order. But you don't see a lot of Endeavor trying to save souls until his own soul is sort of saved towards the end of the series. And it's not until then that I really feel like Endeavor became heroic, because until then he was just stopping people from doing evil things instead of truly embracing what this series seems to define as a true hero, which is making people better.
I want to fight back on that really quick, and this isn't just to be fighting back, just to be a fight for the sake of fighting back. For Endeavor, I'm gonna just say it's not specifically just Endeavor; it's the Todoroki family. I don't really say a lot about this because throughout the show, cause I know like talk about Endeavor sparks a lot here. But what I want to bring is a lot of people bring up that like the Todoroki family drama that's going on and is pervasive throughout the the entirety of the show, is one of the key story points. I feel like them as a whole came together to get that essence of saving a soul, because Dabi, even though Dabi, yes, did burn, his body did burn, they did save his soul. It was basically near
and they saved Toga.
Huh? Oh.
But and Toga to some extent.
but that wasn't them. That wasn't the Todoroki family. But like, I'm just talking
Right.
about like Endeavor specifically. Like
Right.
at the end of all this, basically they do save their son's soul, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it, as he's burning out, his light is literally, man, I hate that this is all like a metaphor, but his light's going out, that he realizes that maybe if he had actually talked to his family, maybe even talked to his younger brother, the youngest one, maybe
Uh-huh.
he would have had a better time with everybody else, and he could have enjoyed everything. Because Dobby's issue wasn't so much that Endeavor was making more children. It was the fact that he always saw himself as if he was being replaced, which in reality, I'm not even gonna pretend that that was not happening at the very beginning of all this. But like,
Mm-hmm.
eventually Endeavor did see the damage he had done and realized that he needed to do something to save his son, and he wasn't so much trying to save his son's body as much as he was trying to bring his son back and try to re try to because he saw the damage he done, and he even thought back on the first time he saw his son nearly burn himself to death, just trying to prove himself to him. Saving his, like, basically Endeavor did. And this doesn't take away from your point. I'm just saying that like Endeavor does have that heroic quality, even if it is only specifically to his family. He tried to save his oldest son's soul because he saw the damage that he did, and that was only after seeing Deku. But like, he realized that's what he needed to do, because Endeavor tried to remove himself from everybody's life as a way to make amends. I just want to say
Mm-hmm.
that I think
The
that.
Deku inspired him to be a true hero. Like Endeavor reached that point um through plot, like character development.
I'm not saying, I mean, Deku did have some, but yeah, Endeavor was was looking through everything, because Endeavor had saw everything. Granted, he started looking over everything only after he became #1. Granted, that's when it started, but I still think it still doesn't mean that Endeavor isn't. He's reached that point as a way to, he's heroic in his own way. He's tried to repair the damage that he's done, and he's also taken in the fact that he is responsible for that. Endeavor isn't no longer ignoring it; he's embracing it to his own detriment now. But he is embracing that he did all that, and he's trying to make amends for it. And I think, as you said before, with Deku trying to save Shoto with his own damage that he was, the mental trauma that he had with not wanting to use his fire powers, the fire side of his powers, like because of his own father, was also a way for Shoto to help Endeavor heal in his own way, because Endeavor also was hurt. But back to you're saying, I understand you're talking. I just wanted to point out that Endeavor does display those heroic qualities, even if it is much later in the show. That's all I really wanted to get out. Continue
Right.
with your.
And I agree with you. I agree that Endeavor became a hero, and by the definition, I mean everybody has definitions of what a hero is, like, but I think he transitioned from um, peacekeeper to hero in later in the series. I think his focus was more like enforcer in the beginning, and it became more heroic later. And what he was doing is more heroic than anything I've really had the chance to do in my life. But the big definition, capital H hero, that like this show strives to establish, I think, wasn't something Endeavor had until later in the series. And on top of that, the idea of saving the body not being so important, saving the life not being so important as saving the soul, I think that's why Deku cooperated with the idea of letting the vestiges sacrifice themselves. And also why Aizawa let injured and weak heroes come to join the fight. I think there's a prioritization of saving the soul being the real goal here, and like Deku respected the vestiges wanting to sacrifice themselves, and not saying no, we don't trade lives, or no, I'm not letting you give up your lives to save this one person, 7 of us, all giving up our lives, and mine too, because Deku, I think, was completely prepared to sacrifice himself as well. And the second the opportunity revealed itself, locking his hands with the guy because the guy needed someone. He's like, he needs someone to hold his hand, so he locks his hands and gives up his arms, and you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like, Deku was perfectly ready to sacrifice his own life because the goal never really, for Deku, was never really to preserve life. It was to save people's souls. Preserving life is important. I'm not saying he hates it or anything, but I think what he really was out to do was save souls. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I'm just trying to looking up something really. I'm just trying to read something really quick. I'm still on that id thing. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Deku's always been self-sacrificing, being fault. I brought that up much earlier on in earlier seasons of this podcast that Deku was always like this, very destructive, but he never had a power to act on it. It was like always in his DNA. And he just never had a power to use to be able to act on it. So when he got One for All, he was able to finally act on those impulses. Speaking of which, we'll talk about Deku and a quirk much later. But oh boy, I have something to say about that. But basically, this entire episode starts off, the first half anyway, with Shigaraki and Deku in the mind, battling it out mentally. The show does a good job at showing fights, not of the physical side, but of the mental side. They were fighting, and Shigaraki had come to terms with him being a villain, and I will say, I know I was fighting this whole idea of Shigaraki being saved because Shigaraki's little kid was saying he was a villain. I never really realized how deep scarred he was when he made those words. When he said those words to Deku back when he first saw him, when Deku was in his psyche. I didn't realize how mentally scarred he was, and we'll find out later there's a total reason why he's mentally scarred like that and why he said those words, because he truly believes that he made decisions that led to those actions that he took. But basically, like as I predicted, Deku finally gets through to Shigaraki in his mind and breaks whatever will Shigaraki had in his mind. And I will say what I find kind of beautiful about that when he did, and Shigaraki, the little kid Shigaraki grew up to be the Shigaraki we know on the outside world. There is something like I can't just give up because I need to be their hero. And it's like, and then he looks up and you see Toga and Dabi, and I'm like, oh god, wait a minute. And then we see there's other people out in the world that actually view Shigaraki as a hero,
especially Spinner.
Yeah, I forgot about Spinner, but like it's the weirdest thing I have never even considered, that maybe Shigaraki believed truly what he was doing was right. And it's I guess when I think about this now, I just now have these feelings come up. But like, I kind of like characters like that kind of are portraying, that are on our side of the viewing plane evil, but in all reality they're only acting this way because they feel like this is the only way things can get done. So in their mind, they're doing the just thing. They see themselves as the hero, and instead the other people are evil. And it totally explains why when we see Deku see how Shigaraki sees him, why Deku, Jesus,
Sorry.
that's why we see, when we saw that shadow like Deku in Shigaraki's mind, totally explains why he sees Deku like that. Obviously he doesn't see him like that anymore because he broke through to him finally. Lost his arms in the mind. I also want to bring up too. I know you made mention like last episode we were talking that you were very adamant that Deku had been fighting on the outside world in the outside too, as well as the inside. I don't know if that was being portrayed in that thing, but you saw after like he did break free, and then All for One finally came out of the shadows. Like in the outside world where all the damage is being done, and all the fingers and stuff like that, was that supposed to show that they were fighting, or was Deku just holding on to Shigaraki's hands in the real world, talking to him like he was in his mind? Like there's a, if I can't find the.
Can you ask that question again?
Like when Deku does finally break through Shigaraki in the mind world, the mind palace, we jump outside after All for One takes over or shows up and takes over. We see in the outside world that it seems like Deku might have been doing the exact same thing as he was doing in the freaking mind palace in the real world. I know you are very positive that Deku and him were still fighting in the real world. Are we supposed to assume that they were just holding hands like in a stalemate, like they were in the?
It's very surreal. Like I don't understand 100%. I don't understand what was happening in the real world. Apparently, this stuff happened to them in the real world. It manifested, but I don't understand it because my understanding was that was vestige Deku in there and not physical Deku.
I mean, that was
so in the real world, were they like imitating the actions that were happening to them in the vestige world, and like what was going on there? Like we know that Deku didn't like become a little kid, for example. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So why did it happen? And then furthermore, like when decay did start affecting Deku, why did it stop at his forearms and then just kind of slice off? Like, why did it not go through his whole body? That's not how decay works.
No,
I get why from a plot standpoint, but like, why else? You know,
Shigaraki can stop it. Like when his quirk awakened all that time ago, he was capable he was capable of stopping it and starting it. That's why whenever when he had cornered Deku at Mount Fuji, you remember Mount Fuji, right? Like where he cornered Deku. He put his hand on the ground and it just started from there. If decay was just all encompassing, it shouldn't start from anywhere. It should just immediately encompass everything. I saw some reactors saying that's basically what was happening, is that Shigaraki can just start and stop it. He can get it, he can stop it wherever he wants to. I'm willing to bet when Deku was grabbing onto him and it was decaying his arms in the real world apparently as well. Shigaraki, when they finally had that breakthrough, he managed to he let it go basically. He just stopped it subconsciously, and that's like why he just stopped at his arms. Like he had given up, quote unquote. I just thought it was kind of weird that because I thought, because you were saying that they were still fighting in the real world and everything was happening in the mental palace. That's like when I saw that I was like, what? Wait, were they not fighting in the real world at this point? Because they would have done a lot more damage if they were still fighting. But okay, I don't know. I guess you didn't know either. I just wanted to maybe you had.
I don't think there is an explanation. I think it's sort of honestly that borderline bad writing. You know what I mean? To have it happen that way, but like I'm not real mad about it or anything. But like I would have. I appreciate when I can understand what's going on, and I don't see a way to understand what's going on there.
I think they were just holding. I think they were just holding hands in a stalemate. I really do think that's what actually happened. Is that they were holding hands in a stalemate in the outside world and in the inside world. They were just mimicking each other. Yeah, he didn't turn into a little kid.
Apparently damage happened to Shigaraki too, because All for One says that you were damaged too when they come out of that vision.
Yeah, but Deku
so Shigaraki took some sort of damage, but Deku didn't punch him or do anything to him or use a power on him. No, he damaged his mind with the vestiges, but he didn't. The experience in his mind shouldn't have damaged Shigaraki, but apparently it did.
No, it was a physical, because when Deku punched him, I think he was actually punching him physically. So because every time it happened in the last episode, he always mentioned that there was damage done, even if he was partially talking about.
But he didn't punch when he was in his mind. He didn't punch him, did he?
I mean, not in his mind, but outside. Like that might have been damage that was done prior.
But the way All for One talked about it was like as if he was damaged during that. He says at 13:45, his exact words are, "I see both our bodies were affected." Interesting. He's not saying, "Oh, both our bodies were affected by the fight." Of course they were affected by the fight. he was saying our bodies were affected. What could he possibly mean except if affected by the surreal experience they went through together?
But Deku says later that
That's
he thought he would have killed All For One with the crash, but apparently he didn't. He was like wondering what's up with that.
yeah, but that line makes me think that something happened to Shigaraki specifically during the experience that they shared together.
Maybe it was All For One that, because I guess we can talk about it now. Basically, All For One shows back up, reveals that he's been there all along. Woo! Big shocker. Sorry, I'm upset and sarcastic at the same time. So
I told you it was going to happen. You didn't necessarily believe me, but I told you.
It's like,
Yeah.
and whatever, you can shove it. But
and since I'm rubbing your nose and stuff that I told you about all along, he also wasn't planning on keeping Shigaraki. He was planning on destroying him the whole time. You said he wouldn't do that. You said he was going to treat him like a possession, but it's demonstrated that he says, hang on. He was planning on destroying at 12:18. He tells him he was planning on destroying him all along, and it wasn't like you said. Shigaraki was a possession he wanted to keep.
he only destroyed him because it was a part of a card. He wasn't intending to destroy him like he does here.
At 12:18,
he only had to. I'm not saying he was a possession.
No, at 12:18, he reveals that he was. I can look up the exact words if you want, but I have the time signature. At 12:18, he makes it clear that he was planning on destroying him all along.
Sorry, I got a
Give me 1
chair.
sec.
I need to fix. 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. While he's repairing his chair, we'd like to send a shout out to our sponsors, Little Giant Condoms. He Chase adult diapers for when things aren't going well in your bowels and you need to chase your problem with a high quality Egyptian cotton adult diaper to make yourself feel much better than you did before. We would also like to do a shout out to Chimichanga Chaw, chewing tobacco. Our most recent flavor is cannabis flavored tobacco. It contains no cannabis, but it tastes just like it. For those people that want to be addicted to tobacco while fighting their addiction to cannabis. Oh, are we back? I'm sorry. I was just taking the moment to thank our sponsors.
I don't know if I'm back yet. Wow.
Okay, since we're still in intermission, I'd also like to thank. Oh man, what are they called?
This is not in there. Why is it not?
Rocket vaginal inserts for those moments when your a regular tampon wouldn't work because it's an especially heavy blood day. Rocket will never let you down. They slide right in, just smooth as butter, because they actually do have a butter-based coating on each one that helps it slide right in. Helps with the heavy flow days when Aunt Flo is there and she just won't go. Should I continue to read sponsors, Game Hunter, or are we still good?
I don't know who Game Hunter is.
Okay. Then we're going to go on to thank our Making Bacon Naked bacon grill and for the nudist preferential people that love bacon but do not want it splattered on their genitals while they're cooking it. Making Bacon Naked comes with the exact equipment you need to make sure that your bacon is delicious and splatter free.
You know what? I'm gonna use the bathroom. He can keep all of this weird nonsense that he's got going on.
We'd also like to remind you that Alternate Visuals has a book on his life, particularly his struggles with incontinence as he's in the bathroom, that he is selling. All you have to do is check his website, www.poopyhard.com. To find a copy of his book, which are right now selling at $18.95 a copy, or you can get it on the Kindle for $15.42 if you use special code Poopy Come Out Bad. I banned a user of yours while you were gone. Just so you know.
What?
I banned a user of yours while you were gone, just so you know. I'm not kidding. It was a bot. So
okay.
there was no doubt that you would have banned it. I was just letting you know it happened, since I've never done that on your channel before.
No problem.
I'm trying to figure out how to report them as well, but I'm having a tough time figuring out. Oh, there's reported. I always report the bots as well if I can get a chance to. Bots. Cool. Yeah, I would never ban an actual user without checking with you first, but this was obvious. I sold your I promoted a copy of your book while you were gone. The book you wrote.
What?
Yeah, about your book about your tale of incontinence.
That doesn't make...
Well, I told them the URL and everything, so hopefully you get to sell some of them. I know you're a little embarrassed about it because it's about incontinence, but I thought your audience should have the opportunity to learn insights about your life.
I'm just like listening him. He said, but all for one. That's what
I'm
he
sorry,
said.
what?
I'm looking at something about what all for one said about Sugar because I swear he said that it wasn't his plan initially.
Okay, so listen, I have the quote, so I can at least share the quote while you're looking it up. He says, "I'll kill Tomor's mind and eradicate it completely. I was only going to play that card after I'd retaken all One for All, but now ... And then he stops. I was only going to play that card after I'd retaken One for All. So he says straight out that it was his plan. His plan was to, once he had taken over One for All, that he was going to, the next step was going to be getting rid of Shigaraki.
He wasn't gonna get rid of him because he's using his body. That was his plan. Like, it was gonna
The
be
mind, you silly Billy. He's talking about the mind.
I still don't know if Shigaraki is gone though, even with that eradication.
Yes, and that was earlier when we were pre-podcast. You said that, and I said no. I want to talk about that later. I am not convinced that Shigaraki is gone. At 12:55, Shigaraki's cries continue, and you hear him OFI kind of musing about it and saying, "Huh, I still hear his cries. It must be some last vestiges of him or something like that." But it's sort of ominous in my opinion that like maybe he could resurface yet. So I found that really interesting. There's also another spot.
I think he
I have to
uses
find
the
my
word
note.
"it"
I have
at
to
some
find my
point.
note on it. What?
I mean, you can find your note, but I just want to say I think there's some point All For One uses the word "id," speaking specifically to Shigaraki. I think he says like, "I'm going to destroy your personality," but he might have used the word "id" at some point. What I wanted to
Yeah.
bring up, what made me interested, because I remember a long time ago looking into the idea of yourself and what makes you or anybody for that matter, what makes that person. And
Uh-huh.
I did come across research done by Sigmund Freud a long time. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen this research if they looked into this topic in any regard. But I just thought it was interesting that he used the word "id," and also I wanted to say this is I haven't had time because I keep on forgetting to even bring this up. But there's also been this talk in the show about like now we know they're called quirk factors. ... Things that like
Yeah.
make your abilities them. It makes me wonder because it's also like some characters have displayed very over the top like character traits, basically like Toga for instance. she
Mhm.
wants to she wants to take in blood. Like this is something that she has a desire, almost a need to, but it seems like no one else displays this type of desire, unless you're Stain as well, who also desires to take in blood. I feel like part of the quirk also has something to do with their personality, because it seems like it really overtook Toga and kind of like where she ended up in the first place.
Mhm.
She wasn't able to express herself. You got people like Stain, who it doesn't seem like it's an inherent part of their personality, but it's something they have a quirk, quote unquote, that they display, which is him licking his tongue coming out of his, and it's like.
You.
But also another person who displays an interesting quality of their quirk is none other than All For One. He he's always said this apparently, that he likes owning things. Things all belong to him. Sounds like something that would be said about somebody who has strong desire for possession, and his quirk is a very interesting culmination of that desire. And, I mean,
Who's quirk?
huh? All For One.
Who's quirk?
All For
Okay.
One. All For One's desire to take in everything for himself is magnified by his quirk. Basically, he can take things from people. If he wants to, he can give them. He can give them too, but he takes things. He doesn't give things. He's only given things on separate occasions, and it's kind of bitten him in the back. But his quirk is kind of a personification of his desire to own things, to own people, whatever. It's just, I find it interesting that now we have quirks and quirk factors and personalities kind of just showing up here, and being more
Uh-huh.
pushed to the forefront of like quirks might just be personifications of people's desires. It's quite possible that quirks, show up depending on, I guess, what they desire most. Maybe I'm kind of like
Disagree.
reaching.
Disagree. And the example I will give you, if you give me a second to find it. Hang on.
It's just an
Hang on
idea.
here.
It's like, we're not really saying this is gospel.
Yeah, but there's a specific character that in my notes that I'm trying to remember his name. He's from the tournament, and he had the ability to control. He had the ability to control people if they answered a question of his.
Shinzo?
And they had a whole Shinzu, probably, yeah. They had a whole storyline about him, about how like he had to overcome the identity of him being a dark character, because of what happened to him, and like he was bigger than his like quirk, you know
I
what I mean?
wasn't.
But he wouldn't let his character, I found it, um, force him to be a villain.
I wasn't.
And Eraser had sort of adopted him, if you remember,
But
and like everything else. Okay,
no.
go
I'm
ahead.
not. What
You're
I'm not.
dying to talk. You've interrupted me like 6 times in that one
No, I was
sentence,
just
so
trying to. I was trying to
go ahead and get
clarify.
it out.
I was just trying to clarify what I meant. I'm not saying that this is gonna make you a villain. Nothing of what I said says that it's gonna make you a villain. Nothing of what I'm just saying that it's a personification of something about you. It's not. It's not something that makes you you. I'm not saying that people want to be villains. That is not what I'm saying. If I was saying that, I would have
I'm
come
not
out with.
saying that either, but I'm saying that there are people that struggle with the fact that they're identified by their quirk. There's also that woman that just kind of looks like a furry, for example, is another good
Oh,
example of someone that. What?
that's kind of offensive, but I.
No, she looks like her drawing style was based on a furry. Like she's got that like animal nose and face and everything like that, and she's ostracized for it. You know the one I'm talking about.
I know, but
She's like she doesn't have any power. She just looks like kind of like a furry.
that's
And
offensive.
I don't see why that's offensive, because that's, if you look at furries, like she's
But
like, they clearly had something like a furry in mind when they drew her. Like
but what
it's
I'm
not
saying, but
offensive. It's
people
just the
use
truth.
that as an offensive term. It's meant to be offensive. When people talk about them like that, it's actually
A,
meant to be offensive.
a furry?
Yeah, when people talk about furries, they don't talk about them in like in a positive light. When people use the word
I
furry,
Yoko is a furry.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think
And
people talk about.
identified as a furry.
I don't think people like maybe the furry community maybe uses it as positive. But I'm pretty sure anytime I've heard it, people usually are being derogatory towards. Not trying to like. But I understand what you're talking about. But continue. I'm gonna move
No, no,
on.
no. I'm just saying, like, I mean, it's I don't. She used to call herself a furry, and like it was never like considered a offensive thing. Like she just
In the circles
was
that
like
I've seen or
a
whatever, I
furry.
hear people talk about, people never really use the word furry. When people talk about I'm not a furry, people go out to immediately say that half the time. So I always assume that people were talking about like, okay, you don't want to be identified as a furry apparently, but whatever. But that's not about the woman that looks like a Loch Ness
Okay,
monster.
well, my understanding from knowing only one person from the furry community was that furry was not offensive, but maybe I'm wrong. But definitely no harm intended or anything like that. I just using what I thought I knew about um, furries. So anyway, but she's anthropomorphic, and that's her only. That's like pretty much um, the only thing to know about her. You know what I mean? Like she looks like she's anthropomorphic, and that's kind of it. And but like she struggles with her like being identified by her quirk too, which is in her case just looking a little different. So I think the idea that it can easily become your identity is the danger of that. You know what I mean? That it takes over your identity is definitely like sort of a ongoing theme of the story, but I don't think that you have to be. I think that those characters are a way of showing that you don't have to be what they say you are. Um, you just it's very seductive and easy to become that, but you're not stuck.
Man, I was never saying that. I was just saying that it. What I could tell, some of these from what lies quirks have a lot to. I'm not even counting the people that are. I think they're called heteromorphs. Like specifically what they are. People just
Okay.
look like animals. I think that's what they are specifically. But I'm not saying that like. I'm just saying for the most part, there's being a lot of people that have a characteristic that I think gets magnified because and it may turn into a power for the most part because a lot of people seem to just play something. I'm just saying that Toga and Stain are extreme examples. Even like Well for One is an extreme example of like something about their personality or a characteristic that they do have, kind of or overtaking them or letting that characteristic take over. I'm not saying everybody is like that. I'm just saying for the most part, I think a quirk is a part of identity, and it might just be not an identity. It's part of a characteristic of yourself that may, in some cases, get magnified and turn into a power. For some people, I should have probably been more specific, but for some people, it seems to be that's the case. I don't think it's the case for Shinzo because I know he had that whole character arc. And I'm not saying what I'm saying applies to him specifically. I'm just saying for some people, it's like it seems to be like a quirk is kind of a part of their kind of a part of identity, but not the defining part of identity. In some cases, some people like to just grasp a hold it. You have people like Toga that kind of just went for it because they felt like that was who they are naturally, and that might be the case for her. That she likes to give, to people, like, likes to give and take. Basically, it's like very, very like minute. I'm just saying, like, but it sounds it seems like they're really trying to push the idea that your ego or whatever and your quirk might be interchangeable. And I say that mainly because after All For One does destroy the id of Shigaraki's body, he does make mention that the decay disappeared too, along with his personality. But I thought was interesting because I was like, why would the decay disappear if you're just getting rid of his personality? It makes absolutely no sense. So a part of me is thinking that Shigaraki's id was connected to his quirk. That maybe ultimately where quirks really themselves manifest is inside the mind. But I also want to bring up too, speaking of Shigaraki's id, we didn't talk about this, so we kind of danced over it. But like,
but that wasn't even his original quirk.
Yeah, I was about to get to that, but
Okay.
basically we kind of danced over it, but we can just talk about it now. Everything that Shigaraki has done has been at the mercy of All For One, and because this revelation, which really shouldn't have been a revelation, I will give people that. Shouldn't have been a revelation, but it was a freaking revelation that shocked my mind. I spent the entirety of the dang show thinking Shigaraki made his decisions all on his own volition. That's why my whole idea of like Shigaraki being deserving of dying has changed. But
irredeemable, yeah.
Being irredeemable has changed because of this small little indication that he All For One orchestrated his birth. All For One orchestrated the childhood that he had. All For One orchestrated, apparently at some point, touched Shigaraki as a child and took his quirk. I don't even know what his quirk was originally. That'd be kind of funny if we find out it's something really helpful. I will laugh. But
I was in my notes too. I'm like, I wonder what his original quirk was.
But speaking
you know what? You know what? This is just a possibility. But what if he comes back, if Shigaraki comes back, what if his original quirk comes out? Because it would be in All For One if he took it, right? Because they never said he gave it to anyone else or got rid of it. Like they said he took the quirk, but they never said he got rid of it. So there's a chance that it's still in him. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if he came back and he took his quirk back from All For One, because they share a mind, and things are kind of weird in there, and he used whatever quirk he had to fight All For One.
Well, it would definitely be in his mind because there's no way that he could fight All For One. All For One doesn't have a body, but yeah, I understand talking about.
There's no guarantee that his quirk wasn't mind related. Do you know what I mean? Like he might. Like if he had the quirk, for example, I know he doesn't, but if he had the quirk, for example, that said, like, I can control you if you talk to me and answer one of my questions, that would debatably be something that he could have used even in the mind, right?
Actually, I have another thing I want to bring up, but I'm going to pause. I'm going to table that for a minute. This is about Shigaraki. Okay, so we know All For One does his research, and like he typically interferes with people who have powers that he thinks are useful, right? And sometimes he may interfere with somebody that might cause him problems. Is it possible that Shigaraki had a quirk that might have been dangerous for All For One? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that was like his initial reasoning for taking his quirk or like orchestrating his birth, but when All For One found out about the quirk that Shigaraki would eventually have from the doctor,
I think All For One doesn't. I think even if it was, that All For One doesn't consider anything dangerous to him. I think All For One is like so egotistical that he just figured
you
it was an obstacle to remove, perhaps, but not actually dangerous.
You say that, but he was afraid of Star.
Was he afraid of Star, or did he see Star's opportunity?
Star was a problem, and he avoided her for the most part. He he was looking for ways to deal with her, but he said it's like Star was like literally the next thing, the next obstacle, as you want to, if you want to call her that, an obstacle that he needs to get rid of, but he did not know how to deal with her. He had been looking for years to deal with her. He's actually been, I think he may mention he was avoiding dealing with her, and a part of the reason why he dealt with her anyways because Star came right for him. He was never going after her. Star just got involved because All Might asked her to help.
Uh-huh.
He purposely did not go after her because he said that she posed a problem. Her quirk was that much of a problem.
Her quirk was pretty cool.
Her quirk was overpowered. Matt had to kill her because of it, but still.
Well, she was an American. Of course, it was strong.
Okay, moving on to the idea that I wanted that table. Now this is gonna be something that I feel a lot of catharsis for, or what? That's probably not the word I'm looking for, but I'm very now. I think my idea has weight. A long time ago, when the show first started, I don't actually remember me saying any of this, but I remember on multiple occasions I was saying that I don't buy that Deku didn't have a quirk. Like, I just didn't buy it. Like the pinky toe was not convincing enough for me. It just seemed like complete BS. But the idea,
the pinky toe bone thing.
Yeah, the third toe in the pinky. I mean, the third bone of the pinky toe was BS.
What's the problem with that? Why would it be BS?
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would that be? Especially after they revealed that apparently the quirks are kind of congenital. Why would a freaking third toe bone make any sense about why would a quirk? Why would a quirk?
Because DNA is weird.
Why would a third? What I want to say is like, I think Deku might have had a quirk. He might have had it stolen. I say this because there's actually one character that we don't really talk about too much because he kind of got already, taken into custody. The doctor has examined every child that's ever been brought to him. Every child, and I'm pretty sure that doctor's been giving the quirks to All For One. Every time, because he used the doctor to find Shigaraki to take the quirk from him in the first place. And then used him again to also find out where Shigaraki was to give him the decay quirk. I'm willing to bet. There's also another thing too. I always did find it kind of strange and kind of random that All For One just suddenly knew. I know he's the big bad, but it seems kind of strange that he, out of all the names he could have picked to dismantle All Might's willpower to fight, he picked Izuku Midori as the first name he would ever say to him to figure out if he had the quirk All For One in him. I just find it kind of strange that of all the names that he could have pulled out of his hat, why not Kacha and Bakugo? Why not, because he even kidnapped Bakugo during that fight too. Like, he kidnapped him. I know he was kidnapping him to make him a villain, but still, it seems kind of weird, of all the names you could have freaking called out, and Deku wasn't really all that prominent of a hero up to that point. Like, Deku was just trying to learn the ins and outs of his new power and how to deal with it and not kill himself in the process. Deku was never really all that active, so there's no way All For One would have known about Deku, at least not immediately. I have the idea. I think All For One knew about Deku from the jump, and it's 100. And I say it's 75% possible that maybe All For One took Deku's quirk because Deku's quirk could have been useful. Like, I am of the mind. I think that there's a possibility. I think All For One took Deku's quirk as a child, and I like this idea for one reason and one reason only. It gives Deku a reason to want to pummel All For One, other than the other things All For One's done. But it gives him a personal reason to destroy All For One and take him out. And now because if Shigaraki doesn't come back or can't come back, well, now he can get rid of the body too because the person he was trying to save isn't in there anymore.
Yeah, I think at this point Deku is fine with defeating All For One. I think he's, unless something else comes up, I think Deku's ready to finish him off. I don't think he's trying to. I think he no longer thinks that Shigaraki can be salvaged or saved. I think Deku is convinced that Shigaraki is gone. I'm just not. And I wish I could find the note where I believed that that Shigaraki was gone, because I'm having trouble finding it. But I had found a second. There was another thing where I thought another piece of evidence from the episode that I apparently didn't write down. I don't understand why I didn't. That Shigaraki might still be there. If I maybe when at the end I'll read through my notes that I haven't covered and find it, but right now I can't find it.
What do you think about the whole idea that Shigaraki never made a single decision his entire life?
I think he made decisions. I think he was manipulated into making decisions, but
Those weren't his
I
decisions.
think what?
Those weren't his decisions, really. Nothing he thought he's ever said or done or chosen to do was of his own volition. All for One
Yeah.
manipulated every single one of them. I mean, yes, it was Shigaraki doing those decisions, but at the same time, it didn't come from his own mind. It didn't come from his own willpower.
Mm-hmm.
Which we already seen his willpower is strong. And All for One even makes mention that willpower is dangerous. At least to him, anyway, because like he can't get people to do what he wants them to do if they have a will of their own. And All for One has made mention on multiple occasions, talking to Shigaraki, he's like, I made sure I manipulated you so you technically had willpower, but it wasn't really your own willpower. It was mine. But the moment that Shigaraki managed to make a decision on his own and completely cut off All for One, and he wasn't expecting it, so that I'm pretty sure Shigaraki's got a pretty strong will. It's just like, you know, All for One made sure that he couldn't use it.
He's got a strong will, but what is your will going to be like when you've lost your whole identity?
I get all
Like,
that. I get that was the whole point of it all. What I'm just saying is like it just seems like, for me, it's like if I was him, I would probably kill myself. Like if nothing, I never said that out loud, but I wouldn't want to go on living. That's even worse. Whatever. I'm gonna just move on from that. But I just found it really messed up that like nothing that Shigaraki had done in his entire life was a choice that he made on his own. Like even like the memories that he saw, he wasn't even supposed to be born, at least not yet. Based on how things are going, it sounds like All for One coaxed his father to have another child because his sister was too old to manipulate. Which I found interesting. It was just interesting. It was like, wow, like that just sucks. And then to find out that his quirk was stolen and then replaced with decay is insane. Like, that is insane because like the amount of mental damage that did to him as a kid when he killed his dog. And then
there was a
killed his
lot of
sister.
Emperor Palpatine stuff going on here. I saw that in the Reddit post that on this, but like I thought it before I read it. Like he's pulling like grooming someone to be evil and corrupting them and causing as much pain as he possibly can over the course of their life and manipulating them and making them feel like he's their only friend and all that stuff, like really, really maximized on the Emperor Palpatine nature of like his personality. Which is fine. It just you can see that inspiration there. As someone that was a fan of movies like this, like the creator of this, like you can see where they perhaps got the idea.
This is freaking insane. I get it. I wasn't thinking about Emperor Palpatine. I was like, I think maybe Shigaraki will come back. I hate to say this, but he might come back as a Force Ghost. Actually, no. Screw the Force Ghost idea. Even though kind of that's what All for One was. I had this really random idea, and I don't know how this would even work. But what if Shigaraki shot a portion of his vestige into Deku right around the time that Shigaraki thought something was up?
Does Shigaraki know how to do that?
I feel like he might be able to, considering that he was groomed by All for One and All for One taught him everything. To me, it's like I feel like maybe he would have either that or he would have picked up on it. Like somehow Shigaraki maybe just like even just a tiny piece of him, just a tiny bit of him. I'm not saying he took his entire person and put it in a Deku, but it'd be the funniest thing that in the world that All for One thought he would have gotten rid of Shigaraki, and it's a part of the reason why we see the screaming of his body. Apart from the fact that his mind was broken, that was obviously the reason why he was screaming. Like his mind was broken, but not all of it was broken. It was just a tiny piece of it. Like the child version of Shigaraki managed to hang a ride inside Deku. Because that place inside Deku's mind, I suspect is still there, considering that he still got the embers of it all. But I just thought I just thought it'd be kind of cool, like if we were going with the idea that Shigaraki's going to be there somewhere mentally, and if you really do want if you really do want the All for One versus Shigaraki thing to happen, other than in the mind palace inside the body of Shigaraki, which I don't think All for One's going to make easy. The only other person that they could essentially do that with is Deku. I don't know how. I don't know what that would do for Deku, but at the same time, it'd be the funniest thing, and I can imagine is that Deku's like on his last leg, and he's trying to, he's trying to end All for One. He's like, God, I don't know if I can do this. And you just hear Shigaraki in his mind, and Deku's like, what? I thought you were dead. And he just sees his ghost, on his shoulder.
That would be pretty funny.
So
I did make a note, and this fits in nicely with. Hang on.
That'd be interesting, and maybe Deku can get like decay powers for a split second. I don't know. It was just an interesting idea that I thought.
No, you're in a good track here. I made a note that I wondered how damaged Deku potentially is from Shigaraki's emotions like surging through him, because they have one moment there where Deku is like, I can feel him like surging through me, and his emotions surging through me when they're connected and their hands are connected. That could have also been the moment that you're supposing, where Deku like potentially discovers that like Shigaraki entered him. Maybe like because the line between Deku and Shigaraki has been really ambiguous for quite a while now. So it does make sense that like perhaps that was a thing. Do you know what I mean? That like they became the same person at some point. Deku became the Joker.
Oh dear. You want to know how I got these scars?
I know how I got these scars. Yeah. But seriously, like Deku could have literally like had a piece of Shigaraki put into him very easily with the existing plot line. So I think that you're onto something there.
I just thought it was just a funny idea. I mean, if they do that,
not
only was it I called it again. I need to stop doing this, but I also need to go and maybe play the lottery. But I just thought it was interesting. I mean, I thought about that after the fact. I was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if he like somehow Shigaraki caught a ride on Deku. Like, that'd be interesting. Because like I don't know how they would do it, but I guess at the same time, you said that moment that he had that surging feelings of Shigaraki. I guess that wouldn't be an impromptu in time. Like maybe Shigaraki, as it was happening, Shigaraki felt All for One slipping. Like him slipping his grip from All for One slipping.
Oh, it could have just been the fact that their minds were like pretty much merged, right? I mean, it could just be the fact that their minds were like really blended together in memories and everything else, and they were seeing what was in each other's minds and stuff like that. Like they were like the same person almost at one point. So it makes sense that like when they got ripped apart, that like a little piece came with them. It wasn't a very like gracious like separation. Like it was like they were torn apart from each other. So it's not like he was able to properly separate himself from them like after all that blending. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what happened. I think that's a really insightful thing you said.
I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. With that being said, they do get ripped apart after All for One, just spills the beans that that I am your father. But I was gonna say they kind of redeemed his father a little bit. Interestingly enough, that his father also wasn't responsible for anything he did, which was even crazier to me. I was like, how much of a horrible person you have to be and prove to us now that that you've been defeated by Tachan, that like you are this evil a-hole that it just needs to be stopped. But after all that, we see Deku on the ground in the explosion aftermath. All for One takes over Shigaraki's body with a really weird, I wouldn't call it grotesque, look, but like he has a darker hand covering Shigaraki's mouth, and his eyes got dark circles around him, and his hair is in the air, and then there's like little fingers.
And he looks like an adult. He looks like an adult.
I didn't think he changed that much.
Yeah, I would say to me that thing that's left looks like an adult. I think that was like the big difference to me, was that Shigaraki was like a youth, and this is an adult at 1305. If you want to take another look, because that's where he comes out.
I mean, it's obviously changed, but I just didn't think he got older. But I guess now I'm looking at the face there.
I'm not saying he got older, like literally. I'm saying that like the manifestation of All for One looks older in the body which is kind of mutable. You know what I mean? Like we've seen this body do all sorts of things. The body's physical shape is pretty ambiguous at times, you know, with being able to create hands and all the other stuff. And I think whatever like quirk or plot device or whatever, like because creating those hands is apparently not a quirk, allowed this to happen, manifested him as an adult at this point because he is an adult in there now.
I'm gonna ignore you. Slip that last bit in there. We're just gonna move. We're gonna move with the rest of it though.
What about not the hands not being a quirk? It's just not a quirk. He used it when his quirks were neutralized, so it's not a quirk. So like, yeah.
So move on. We didn't hash it out last time we were talking about this during the fight, but it's just gonna. I'm just laughing because I'm just.
Do you think it was a quirk?
No,
I thought we were in agreement that it wasn't a quirk.
No, but I was saying you were very upset by it. Is what I was saying. Was what I was really getting at. You were very upset by it.
Yeah. But me right now is not. I'm not venting being upset about it. I'm just stating the fact that it wasn't a quirk. So like, his body is not like a clear cut thing even without a quirk. So, but also All for One probably has a shape change quirk of some sort. So, you know, one way or the other, it wouldn't be very outside of the plot line or what happens in this universe for him to have been able to make the body look like more like something that All for One would have.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean,
you agree? What? You agree with me?
We're just moving on.
I don't
now,
think
but,
you agree with me on something.
But wow, that's very.
What? What?
Wow, that's very. Well, that's not mean. I'm looking for the word. Then I know it's there in my mind. I'm trying to grab it, but whatever. We're gonna move on. Like Deku comes out of the Mind Palace, and Deku's arms are missing, as we mentioned earlier. That Deku is like his fingers all the way up to his like forearm are gone now, and he's just like trying to get up, unsuccessfully, mind you, off the ground to fight All for One because he sees All for One's there now, and he's also shocked that apparently crashing All for One into Shigaraki's mind didn't destroy All for One. So it sounds like Deku was also aiming to destroy him too, but he just wasn't successful in doing it.
Can I point out that now Deku didn't give up necessarily, but when he's laying on the ground without his arms, that's the closest I've ever seen to Deku defeated. He was still trying to crawl or something like that. I didn't see in his eyes like a plan to fight. I saw him struggling to do something, but like it didn't feel like there was an effort to do something like fight-like in him. It just seemed like he was just trying to move. That's the first time. That's the closest I've ever seen to Deku looking completely defeated.
I didn't think he was defeated. I think he was just trying to get up so he can use his legs.
Yeah.
To fight. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure Deku
realized he didn't look like he was fighting though. He just looked like he was sort of out of commission, kind of.
I think he was trying to get up so he could fight.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had a plan.
I didn't see the spark of battle in his eyes. I saw I didn't necessarily see fear. It was very close to him looking beaten in his eyes. He wasn't ready to give up yet. You know what I mean? But he does say it's not over. I guess I'm looking at the footage again. Maybe I'm wrong. He does look pretty determined to do something, but I have no idea what he thought that was gonna freaking be.
I think he was gonna try kicking him. I mean, though it would have been unsuccessful. I'm not saying what would be successful. I'm just saying that I think he was gonna go out guns blazing, feet blazing, but it just wasn't successful. He wasn't able to get up. He literally was on his chin. His lower body was having a hard time lifting up his upper body. Like, he was not able to lift himself. Like, he needed his arms. Yeah, he.
Any thoughts on why the hell he doesn't just bleed to death? I mean, there's such
I
bullshit in
think
this shit.
the decay just like it's kind of like cauterizing. I'm pretty sure that's
But
what
there's
really
blood everywhere.
not from the arm dripping.
There's blood everywhere.
But not from the arm that the freaking wound is. It got
Okay,
decayed
then
up.
if it's not from the arm, what the hell is the blood?
I'm not saying it was
It's
from
not
the
from his
arm.
nose. He didn't just have a bloody nose all over his arms. Like it's blood from his arms where they went missing.
I feel like we discussed this whole idea of another
There's
different
blood
show
pooling on the
in your
ground
whole
around
idea
him.
of how much blood loss it takes to take out a human. I feel like we talked about this before in another show. I feel
and
like
we could look up how much blood loss is a fatal amount and all, but like he doesn't have arms and there's blood where his arms were. Like,
do you not think that the decay could have cauterized the wound?
why would it cauterize the wound? That's not what cauterize means.
But it stopped the blood, I'm pretty sure, because there's no way, because I'm pretty sure decay gets rid of everything. I'm not sure what the blood on the ground, that might have just been from, I don't know, but I'm saying, I feel like the decay closed up the wound.
Maybe a bird was flying by and it died. It just fell from the sky and landed there.
We had this conversation before.
Maybe two birds. It would have to be two birds. It would have to be two birds, but it's still possible.
We really had this conversation
two birds were flying over his head.
The hero to die in the fight for some really strange reason. And if that happened, we're not in Dragon Ball Z where they can come back to life. Nobody can come back to freaking life in this show. There's absolutely no way somebody could come back to life in this show. They have not introduced any way to do that.
Right. So I'm just pointing out that like it's a little ridiculous that he didn't bleed to death there. There's no logical story explanation for why he's not bleeding. He didn't bleed to death.
I don't understand why he needs to bleed to death from that.
I don't want him to bleed to death. I don't want him to bleed to death, but the situation that the writers put him in, he should have bled to death.
I don't understand how he would have bled to
by losing both of your arms.
I don't think there's enough blood. There's not enough. I don't know. My definition, or like what I think it would take, because I've seen bloody shows before, and I'd say I've seen bloody shows, but it's just a lot of blood every freaking where.
And those bloody shows are probably not realistic. You don't have to lose a lot of blood to die.
I feel like you do because the body needs a certain amount of blood to keep functioning. That's just physics of your body. In order to keep you alive, it needs to have enough blood.
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Like, no, not like there's a certain amount of blood. I'm not sure what that amount of blood is. I'm not sure, and I don't think it's a bucket, but I'm sure you have to lose enough blood to have your heart and your consciousness to fade. I'm just saying that I'm pretty sure the freaking decay, like, may not cauterized, but it did something to it to close up the blood vessels. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm pretty sure Shigaraki's decay quirk doesn't just decay to things around the blood vessels. That'd be really freaking weird. I want to say, like, that'd be a very specific part of his quirk that I find really weird, because another thing too, when he decays human people, I was about to say that when he decays people, they don't just splurt blood everywhere, but no, that's not right. The dog had to fall to the ground after it decayed around him. That's probably where the blood came from. Then he just decayed his arm and the blood just splashed on the ground. That's why he's not like nearly dead. I don't know.
If you say so,
I don't think it's bad story writing. I think we had this conversation before with the amount of blood or something like that. How you didn't like it. I think it was Rennie Kenshin. I think it was in Kenshin that they had the exact same conversation.
Maybe.
What's going on with the blood doesn't seem to bother me as much as it bothers you, which is really strange.
No, see, what happens is, this is the same formula we follow over many things sometimes. I make a point. You disagree with my point. I think it's outrageous that you disagree with me. And I hold my ground. And then, when I hold my ground, you decide that I'm holding my ground because I'm emotionally unstable about it, rather than I am just very much believe what I'm doing, and the more you double down, the more I double down back.
I never think it's an emotional. I shouldn't say emotion. I don't think you're emotionally stable. I just I feel like there's an extreme
You're
here, and
like,
I
this
think
is
you're
why you're
taking.
so angry about this. And I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah,
not
part of me
so
is too.
angry about this, but I'm going to hold my ground about it because I think I'm absolutely right. I think that a well-written story, in a well-written story, Deku would have probably mostly died of blood loss at this point instead of like a cauterize your wound means like fire cauterizes things. He didn't. There's no fire in Decay to cauterize his wound. This is not a fire villain, and like there's no other thing that has been established in the storyline that would suggest that he should be able to survive. Like no one's ever had that happen to them before, or anything like that. That would serve, and there's blood on the ground, so he obviously bled at some point. Never mind, probably falling from the sky when he lost float. And like now he's laying on the ground. He should have died from the fall. He should have died from the blood loss. Like there's nothing in the story that explained why he is alive, and I think that is a little not giant deal, but a plot problem that we could look at and say, hey, that's a plot problem and move on with our lives. Except that you are like, no, it's not actually a plot problem. Why are you so emotional about this?
The whole blood thing. Do you not remember when he decayed his dog and the blood just fell to the ground? I think he did the exact same thing
Yeah,
with his
because
sister.
there also was fur and stuff like that. Like he didn't decay
What?
every single little piece of it. So you're saying that
The blood
okay,
possibly is just
but
from
there's
the
still
arm.
not anything. There's still not anything that suggests that he shouldn't be bleeding to death.
There's a black
With a
spot on
dog,
his
there was
arm.
nothing to. With a dog, there was nothing left to bleed. It was just all dead. Like it was a completely dead dog. But in this case, it wasn't a completely dead dog. It was just,
I
you
don't
know.
think you take my whole I don't think it's that big of a deal as me saying like I'm not really thinking about it all that hard. I'm just enjoying a show for what it is because we're nearing the end. Like I don't think every single detail needs to be freaking fine tuned because we'll be here all week. We'll be here all day with every freaking show that's got small problems that people could
What
will
you
nitpick.
what you could have said was, "Oh yeah, that's kind of weird," and we could have moved on. But you were like, "No, I don't think this is a problem. I will quote other movies where there was
No, because
lots of
I
blood.
legitimately
I
don't think
think
it's
that
a
you could lose
problem.
both your arms and have blood all over the ground and still be
Most
fine. You should have plenty of blood left. I'm surprised he's not up tap dancing right now. Like, what the hell is your point?
why would
Just agree with me that this is
then you
probably something that wasn't fully explained, and like
but no, but then you
he
get upset with
probably should
me,
be.
and then you make me sound like an ass. Like seriously, look, I mean, this is like a legitimate thing. When you say tap dancing, yeah, I think like I'm sitting here saying that he's a fully functional being. I'm just saying I don't think he would have died. I don't. That doesn't mean that he should be up there tap dancing like the frog on the darn Broadway thing, or
He
like
should
he
be
should.
bleeding right now.
I don't think it's a freaking problem. I think I even
He
told you
should
this
be bleeding
before.
to death
I
right now.
don't really care about realism in my stuff most of the time because I'm tired of it because I live in realism. For me, in
Okay,
general, I live realism. I don't
he
need it.
should still be bleeding to death right now.
It could be coughing up blood. We don't really know that. The freaking show ended after.
Nobody was coughing. And he gets healed by the end of this, where he's not bleeding to death anymore and he's okay. Nobody was coughing up blood. Nobody will be coughing up blood at this point because he's healed.
I really do think. I mean, this isn't. I'm not. I'm gonna rephrase or talk about like. I don't know. I feel like we had this conversation before. Bleeding in general. I just never looked too deep into any of that. I'm not saying injuries don't matter. I'm just saying that like for me, it's like in a general, it's like I don't really get upset on like if they're not bleeding or they should be bleeding. I don't really look too much in it because like you make an argument in Dragon Ball Z. There's a lot of situations where some people should be bleeding. I just take it because like we're not in like the real world because there's powers and everything around here. Like the human constitution isn't going to be the same as a human in this world, in this reality. We don't have that genetic not defect. We don't have that genetic complication that comes from like having powers. And we surely don't have that other thing where we are passing powers from one person to the other person and it's getting stronger over the generations.
Yeah.
Like there's just things that are happening in that world. It's just like an offshoot of the real world, but it isn't exactly the real world because like I mean, crying out loud, if people were running around looking like half the people were looking at, we would have a lot more racism problems than we currently do right now. But I'm just saying, like, I don't really look at it all that. I don't really look at it all that much. So when I'm saying that, and it's not a big deal for me, it's like I'm not sitting here saying, Like he should be completely fine. I feel like that's
Mhm.
an exaggeration, and that's like what I say. Whenever you do me, whenever you fire back at me, making me sound like an ass. That's like why I fire back harder because I'm not saying. That's not what I'm saying. At like African all. Like that's why I sometimes fire back harder because you're making me sound like I'm saying something I'm not.
And you're like, oh my god, I feel like I'm wrong. Let me be even more wrong. Let me fire back and triple, double, triple, quadruple down and be as wrong as possible about this
Put
because
words in
I'm
like
upset
in all
that
reality. Don't put
I'm
words in my
upset that
mouth.
I feel foolish. So let me like triple down on being foolish.
That's like that. I just don't want people putting words in my mouth like you were doing. Like you said, you should be tap dancing. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know how what
That's
I said.
conversational hyperbole where I'm using comedy to make my point. It's not me putting words in your mouth because nobody that hears this is going to think that you actually said that because they were there when the whole conversation
I
happened.
just want to point out before we move on from this, like you saying that like people don't take things literally. We live in America right now where basically anything you say means literally what you say because of the person in charge. I just want to point that out right now. That's like what that's like me taking that literally is a safeguard for myself.
Yeah, but they were here. They were
What
here
doesn't
when the
matter?
conversation happened.
What doesn't matter?
Anyone who's
Facts
listened
don't
this
matter.
far in the podcast has heard everything that was said up to this point, and
I
they
don't
know
know
that
what
you
the.
didn't.
I
They
mean,
know you didn't say that.
that doesn't
Like,
matter. Facts don't matter in this freaking world. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna move on. I don't know if the people listening to the Trump supporters. Now, moving on. Uh,
oh my god, oh my god. Okay, we're doing that. We're really doing this. We're gonna talk about Trey.
no, no, we're not. We're moving on. But like beyond well, beyond that whole bleeding thing. I feel like we're gonna be watching more shows in the future that are gonna bother you with blood and blood loss. But I guess we're just gonna accept it and move on. But
We could just take what we got so far and say, it probably could have like found a way to set that up where he wasn't like bleeding to death. Anyway, so he gets either way. He's saved in time.
dang it. Sorry,
What?
chair is literally like I got it. Hope I got it. Really got to get another chair. Black Friday can't come soon. Um, after that, like after Deku's on the ground with his arms getified, Deku's trying to do something as we said before all that, and well, but he can't really get up, and then all of a sudden almost gonna come right say that's not Seraphine. I think it's Seraphine. Tape dude comes in and like apparently as Alphonse about to blast Deku, stops him from blasting him with the tape, and
That's
then
Zero.
I think his hero name is Seraphine. I think is what his hero name is.
Oh,
But
yeah, but his name is Sarah, Cro. Yeah.
but and then then like Kuragiri's like transportation black hole shows up behind Deku, and Ozawa just shows up out of nowhere, and that's when I remember this episode's called From Ozawa. But
So, are we going to talk about how this is sort of a ripoff of Endgame?
I don't really remember
Do you
any
know that?
Ozawa.
Okay, one of the most famous, not just in the MCU, but like one of the most famous moments in recent movie history is the end of Endgame, where the last man standing in the fight against Thanos, who wanted to kill half the universe, and then later decided he was going to destroy all of the universe, sort of like Shigaraki, um, with the stones, is fighting, and the last man standing is a very injured Captain America, for what it's worth, had a very badly damaged arm. He's standing up alone against Thanos and his entire army, and they have this scene of this battle-torn land. Everything is just apocalyptic looking, and Captain America is standing alone against Thanos. And then you hear on your left, in his ear, and he looks up, and like it's a reference to something that happens in a different movie where they say on your left, where Captain America's running past Falcon over and over again and lapping him on the track. And every time he goes by, he goes on your left, and he goes, "Stop saying that!" And Captain America runs by him again on his left. Anyway, so he says, "On your left," and he looks up, and Falcon comes out to help him. And then through a portal, and then all of these portals come out, open up, and everybody from the MCU that's not dead appears out of dozens and dozens of portals in the sky, on the ground, everywhere else, and they come out for one final battle against the big bad. And boy, oh boy, does this feel like that scene.
I barely remember that movie. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I barely remembered it, so I don't really make any connections. I understand the superhero thing, and they're gonna be borrowing things.
Well, it's a very very direct. Like the fact that all the portals open up, and all the heroes from the entire series come out, like, is very directly similar, like, to what's going on here. There's no way that it didn't at least occur to the animators that this was similar, because that's probably the most famous part of that movie.
You're assuming that people in Japan watch those movies? I'm assuming.
Which is the #2 box office hit of all time after Avatar. Like,
that's here though, not there.
Okay, and the writer of My Hero Academia is a really big superhero fan, particularly of American superheroes. So watching what is absolutely the biggest superhero movie of all time is probably something that was on his radar. Because, I mean, anybody in film, even if they don't watch superheroes, would have at least watched that movie to see, gee, I wonder what the second most profitable movie of all time is about. You know what I mean? At least academically, as someone that is in the industry, they would have checked it out. So, yeah, I think 100% this fan of superheroes in America that wrote this thing and is well studied in superheroes of all type would have watched the most popular superhero movie of all time.
Or he just ironically, or not ironically, he accidentally
no,
just did this.
No.
So, like, there's no way. I'm not saying there's no way that the Marvel movie would have not ended up in Japan, but I find it like really strange. You say it's. I mean, I get that's the #1 box office here, but like I never hear. I mean, it's not saying that this doesn't happen. I just like it's a very. It'd be really weird if a Marvel movie did well in Japan and we didn't hear about it. I'm just saying, like, it just seems really freaking strange, because I feel like that movie, if any movie in the freaking world that, like, I don't know why they wouldn't have not broadcasted it to America that it did well overseas. Why not that particular movie? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I mean, I'm sure
the movie is in Japanese. I'm sure the movie was released in Japan in Japanese. There's no way it wasn't.
But I feel like we would have heard about it blowing up Japan's box office, though. I'm pretty sure
we heard about it blowing up everybody's box office. It's not just an American movie. It was like the second biggest movie, and for a little while, the biggest movie of all time. By box office.
I'm not talking about like every movie we should hear.
Okay, ChatGPT specifically was Avengers Endgame popular in Japan?
I'm not saying it wasn't popular in Japan. I'm just saying, like, I feel like we would have heard about it blowing up. And besides, another thing too, I don't know if he like.
Americans don't give a crap about anything except America. Like, we wouldn't have heard about things blowing up in Japan.
I don't know if he would have really. I'm pretty sure he did research in the comics for sure.
Avengers Endgame was very popular in Japan. It brought 6.2 million yen in Japan. It was one of the highest. It was one of the highest grossing foreign films of 2019 in Japan. What are you asking me?
I was like, what year did it come out?
Avengers Endgame?
Yeah.
I'll ask. I think it was 2019. Because I think it happened right before the pandemic, so I'm almost positive it was 2019. April 26, 2019. In Japan, it released the same day.
here's the problem I have with the in game. I'm not talking about the comics in general, just the in game idea that he watched it and he stole that idea.
I'm not saying he stole the idea, but it's way too close to not. Have you? Do you remember it? Like you really? I feel like this is worth you stopping for a second and going and watching that scene. I can look it up for you if you'd like. I think
No, I think I
if
remember
you're
the
not
scene.
remembering the scene well enough, like you should watch to see.
I don't like. For me, superhero. I watch superhero movies one time and I move on. I'd say I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying, like, I got other things I want to watch that are kind of like piling up, and I added this movie in to watch it because I was watching it in order. I do remember seeing it talking about, but for me, I wasn't thinking about it as I was watching that. Part of my mind was probably wondering, this seems familiar to me, but I wasn't gonna go out of my way to look it up. But,
Yeah.
But with that being said, the thing is, like, this is the thing, and this is something I do know about, like, Horikoshi specifically. I had brought
Do me a favor while you're talking. I won't interrupt you anymore. While you're talking, I want you to just be in the background watching this video that I'm going to link you to.
I mean,
Just
I
while
know
you're
what scene you're talking about. I don't really need to watch it. I know you're seeing.
I know, but just as a refresher on the visual and how similar the visual is. Like, since you haven't watched it in a long time, admittedly, just refresh yourself on this visual.
I know what you're talking about.
Specifically the fact that his arm is hurt, and I think they're even possibly suggesting it's broken, and how everybody comes out of a portal. Everybody that's like across the whole series comes out of the portal. Just humor me and just have it playing in the background while you tell me what's on your mind. It's not hard to do, and also the apocalyptic hellscape that you get to look at. The big difference is that in Endgame, Thanos has an army, and it's just all for one in the other one. You can still talk. You don't have to pay super attention to this, but even the fact that Sero comes on his left-hand side to help him,
That's the problem I had with this specifically, because I know this. But Horikoshi, he had this is the thing. He already had the ending, because the manga from My Hero Academia came out in 2014, which doesn't dismiss anything you said. But I'm saying this manga. He started this manga in 2014. He already had the ending. He already had the first ending he had intended in this show with, which was the movie ending, second movie ending when he gave it to Bakugo. Then he changed his mind because he had to use that ending for the movie. But then he made another ending in that movie. I need to figure when that specific movie came out.
Even the fact that those portals, like in My Hero Academia, a lot of the portals appear in the sky. In Endgame, it makes sense that the portals appear in the sky, but in My Hero Academia, there's not really that many characters that can fly. And still, there's tons of portals appearing in the sky. In Endgame, like, they appear in the sky and, like, ships are flying through and stuff like that. In My Hero Academia, like, I don't know who's coming out of those portals in the sky, but apparently somebody is. It's just strange. It's like a strange choice unless it's a callback to an Endgame, which doesn't mean it's worse or anything. It just means that I don't see... It's hard to not see it and think Endgame.
I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge, but at the same time, when I'm saying, like, I don't know if his new ending was inspired by Endgame, because there's no way of knowing that. It's like, I mean, he already had an ending already planned, and then he had to change it, and it came with another ending, and I don't know he came up with that other ending. That's the other
thing. This is like arguing that we don't know for sure that he knows what an apple is. Like,
But what you're saying is, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but one thing, what you're saying is, when he made this new ending, the one we're getting right now, he had watched Endgame. I don't know when he came up with that ending, though. There's no way of knowing when he came up with his new way of ending the show. That's what I'm saying. I can't say for certain he had watched Endgame before he had made that his new ending to the show, because he already had an ending, and that was a Bakugo getting the quirk at the end of it all, basically. That was the initial ending he had came up with, but he had to he had to use that for the movie because they wanted him to make another movie. And with this movie coming out in 2019, I don't know when he came up with that ending. I guess what I would need to know is like, when did Two Heroes come out? 2018.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's the wrong
We also
movie.
don't know what happened in the manga. We don't know if they just tweaked
Heroes
the ending a
Rising.
little bit. Like, they could have had the story of it written out, and then like the visual like was inspired by like Endgame. You know what I mean? Like the specific way that they did it with all the portals in the sky and everything. Like they could have had like the storyboard built out, but the specifics about how they did the visuals for the scene was inspired by Endgame. Again, I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I'm just saying that it just seems obvious to me.
I don't know, like this, because I can tell you, he like mangaka's jobs aren't the same as regular people because they don't have a lot of free time. I think like they're working like not 24/7, but they're working a lot more than most people. And I'm just saying maybe it was accidental that he did this and then watched the movie and realized, oh crap. Not saying he wanted to change it. He just like, oh good gracious, I did not know I was gonna do this and then see the movie afterward.
Yeah, oopsie.
But I will say that the movie
Oopsie. I made it look a lot like
the movie Hero Rising. What he had the initial ending that he used for the movie. That came out the same year the movie did, the end game. I know he had to come up with their ending, so there's a possibility, you know, with all that being said, maybe he's seen the movie beforehand, and that's when he came up with the new ending, which seems really freaking weird. That he wouldn't have come up with another ending after giving up on this original ending. I thought there's any real reason why he wouldn't have done that. It just seems kind of strange. If I was a creator of a manga, I would try to come up with an ending like almost as soon as I had to give up the original one I had.
Well, the whole series is a love letter to American superheroes, so it makes sense that this fits in. Like it fits in. It's not problematic to me. It's for a series that like is just sort of love letter to superheroes. It's cool to me that they did this call out to Endgame. It just feels very Endgame to me. It's very hard for me to see how that's not Endgame. It's the exact same basic concept.
No, that's I'm not saying that that's not right. I'm just saying like I don't like saying that a mangaka or whatever because I don't know them. You know, this is exactly what they were doing, what they're going for. There's no way of knowing. At least the in-game comparison, not everything else, but just in-game thing. I honestly could sit there and believe that he accidentally did this.
I wish you had more viewers so that everybody could shout at you in the comments.
Like, I'm just like, I find it difficult. I really freaking do. This isn't me trying to be difficult. I'm just saying, I find it difficult. Because even with in-game coming out 2019 and then not your next, but Heroes Rising coming out that same year, and him needing to come up with another ending, I don't know when he would have like. I guess okay, let's say, for argument's sake, he was working on Heroes Rising and then he took a break and he went to go see the movie, and he didn't have an ending planned, and he really liked that. Okay, fine, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that I find it difficult. Unless you were to ask him, and I know he wouldn't tell you. I'm just saying, like, I find it one of those things. Like, I just personally don't know.
I mean, he might tell you if it's this obvious. He might go ahead and say, "Yeah, I felt inspired." You know,
some of them don't. Even if it's obvious, they just rather you think about it. It's what they would like you to do.
Yeah, in this case, like, I wouldn't think about it. I'd just be like, no, it's just so really obvious to me. I wouldn't be thinking about it. I just feel like that was the way it was. I wouldn't even ask him. I'd just be like, it was so obvious. If I had a question to ask him, I probably wouldn't ask that. You know? To me, I just presumed. I'm just saying, if I had 30 questions to ask him, I wouldn't waste time on something that seemed like had an obvious answer to me.
I know. I
would be more like his frothier version, you know.
Well, I was gonna say he wouldn't answer that, but then again, Oda answered penis sign before, so I guess it's like you're laughing, but there's a literal interview question about One Piece, and somebody asked the creator, because like the main character is made out of rubber, literally asked him is their genitalia also rubber, and he answered yes. That's not a question I would have thought he would have answered. So like when I say like I really don't know he would have answered Froppy's virginity, but I'm pretty sure he probably would have, to throw people off.
That's funny.
I don't know if I find that funny or just disturbing that he gave that answer. Regardless if it's true or not, like, I just find it disturbing.
Funny doesn't always mean humorous. Sometimes it just means like, oh, that's a funny thing to have.
Been noted for positive use
in
of
the world.
heroes. Kramer, what the hell? Modern world, we often heroic ideals, motivation. Knowing now how American media, the optimism, carries, comic books, Watchmen, the post Watchmen, and question heroism challenge. I know what Gotcha Man is. What is Yatter Man? I have never heard of this.
What are you talking about?
I was on Wikipedia looking at My Hero Academia themes and whatever that themes and analysis. They just brought up like talking about positivity about heroism, and then they brought up something about the heroes in Japan, specifically Gatchaman and whatever this one is. I have never heard of this one. Yaterman? I have no idea. I have never seen this. It appears to be the same thing as Gatchaman, I'm guessing. I think Gatchaman is just the thing that caught on. Why wouldn't it? But okay, back to this anime.
With it being 11:15 and me having gone through about 40% of my notes, do you want me to go through my notes now so we're not doing this at 12:30?
That's fine.
Okay. I want to point out that from what I found from researching, and I didn't find 100% source for this, so if you disagree, you disagree. But it looks like it was confirmed in both the anime and the manga that Shigaraki's watered down quirk, intentionally watered down, is the same quirk that All for One gave to Overhaul, except Overhaul got the non-watered down one. And that also made me wonder what his original quirk was, but you already mentioned that today.
I'm confused. What?
Overhaul's quirk. Remember where he could destroy something and then bring it back? All for One mentioned that the quirk he gave Shigaraki was a watered down version of a stronger quirk. And one of the things that he did when he watered it down, possibly the only thing, was that he took away the ability to reverse the decay. So the anime, ChatGPT said it was confirmed in the anime. I disagree that it was confirmed in the anime. ChatGPT also said that it was confirmed in the manga, that Shigaraki and Overhaul had the same quirk, but Shigaraki's was intentionally watered down by All for One. And All for One did straight up in this episode say that he took away the ability to reverse the quirk. So we know at least that part is true.
I did not see him say that, but I believe you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a timestamp for it, but it would have been. I don't know. I don't have a timestamp for that. I'm sorry. But he did say that at the point. What?
Now you saying that they had the same exact quirk.
It makes a lot of sense.
What did Shigaraki do to Overhaul that's kind of similar to what's going on with Shigaraki's appearance? Can you tell me that?
What?
He cut off his arms. I mean, his hands.
Oh, yeah.
He did that exact thing to freaking Overhaul. When you said that, that got me thinking. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, wow, you're right. That's pretty cool.
He took his hands. You already know my feelings about Overhaul. I don't need to get into that here, but like, I didn't realize that he said that. I guess like not guessing. I mean, what's the name of his quirk again? I can. Oh, it's called Overhaul.
Isn't his quirk called Overhaul? Yeah, I don't
I
think the
didn't.
character's name is Overhaul, especially since he was given the quirk.
People refer to him as Overhaul though. I thought that was his villain name. He actually gets referred to as Overhaul, but okay. It makes it even lamer, but whatever. I'm not gonna get into my feelings anymore about this.
Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. Just there were so many like this episode was so good. There were so many threads and things that were paying off in this that like were foreshadowed, or you didn't even know that it was like a theme that that was all gonna come together at the end. And there's just so many things like that, and I'm really, really appreciative of this episode, much more than many other ones I've seen. Not that the other ones are bad or anything, but this was probably this and the fight between All Might and All for One. I think are probably my two favorite episodes in the whole thing so far.
I just want to point out really quick about your whole
Yeah.
decay thing, and it says on here trivia that that you are right. Decay is a modified copy of Overhaul. So
Yeah.
he copied Overhaul and did what he said to it and turned it into Decay.
Yeah, he gave him a worse decay, which a worse Overhaul, which is really interesting. Okay. I appreciated that Deku saved Shigaraki with a smile. The smile is what did it, I think. And it goes back to the whole thing about like Nana and passing the need to smile on to All for One, who passed it on to Deku, and Deku's passing it on to Shigaraki now. Like that smile is like everywhere. And I thought that was another really cool payoff. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like the thing that like turned this whole thing around for him is that like he smiled at him, because that's the point where Shigaraki stops. Like he's like, I'm decaying his arms and he's smiling at me, and like that's what he needed the most at that point. And I thought that was super cool. So I really appreciated that. I found it sort of interesting with this surrealism that was going on. It was almost, but not quite, as if the things that happened in Shigaraki's mind were rewriting the past. Like, I know it didn't really like time travel or anything like that, but it felt very similar to like reality being rewritten with like what was happening in his mind. Jump in at any point if you want to interrupt me. I'm just trying to make sure we have a chance to talk through all these different things. We already talked about Deku being the hero of the heroes and Shigaraki being the hero of the villains. It reminded me a little bit of Stain, who's like sort of the hero of the people that are in the middle. Stain was like sort of the hero of the people that were halfway. Like, you know what I mean? Stain was also sort of the hero of the everyday people. You know what I mean? He was sort of a champion for them and like mad that heroes were acting like gods. You know what I mean? Because they were heroes. And so I thought that was interesting because Stain was very much a heroic character to a lot of people in his day. You know what I mean? And he was something that I felt like Shigaraki may have found sort of a source of inspiration for, because Spinner certainly did. I thought it was interesting that in sort of a way, One for All is also the reason that Shigaraki was saved, like that his soul was saved. I think Shigaraki might not have been so ready to throw away All for One if All for One hadn't bragged about how he had been ruining his life all along. I'll give you a break. Like, take a second. Like, answer one of these.
I'm listening. I don't really know what to say. I mean, like, what do you want me? Like,
okay.
Repeat the last thing you said. Like, what do you want me to respond to about it?
Oh. I thought it was interesting that All for One, in his own way, like helped save Shigaraki. Like when Shigaraki was kind of faltering, like All for One was like, "Ha, like I'm the one that ruined your life. You had no choice about this. You've been my pawn the whole time." And I feel like that helped Shigaraki snap out. If there was any doubt in Shigaraki's mind at that point that like he was like going to reject All for One, I feel like that put it over the line.
agree. What to say about it? One thing I can say is like it's really jacked up that his entire life was a lie.
Mm. I thought that was a really good plot twist and a very satisfactory one. Like we were worried. Like I've been telling you how I worried about how things were going to come around. We got to see Deku redeem Shigaraki and save Shigaraki in a way that I think most of the audience would agree was like sort of a redemption. And sorry, we saw him like redeem him in a way that like should have been like a redemption. I've lost what I was saying. Shit. I'm sorry. Can you help me out a little bit? Where was I going with that? Where before my brain shut off?
I mean, think about Shigaraki being redeemed in a way that makes sense.
Oh, that makes sense. That was okay. Like we were talking about, like we're like, I don't know how the writers are going to get us out of this situation. Like, how are we going to have our big battle at the end? You know, are we not going to have a battle? Like you were like, I don't really want Deku to save Shigaraki because it makes no sense. Like all of these things that we've been worried about, that like we're like, oh my god, I really hope this doesn't turn out to suck. Doesn't suck at all. Like it's all great, and I'm very enthusiastic about the fact that like we got to have Shigaraki's redemption arc, and at the same time we get to have the whole boss battle too. You know what I mean? Like no one has to lose. Like everybody gets what they want. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really cool. I thought at 13, I thought early in the episode and then later at 13:25, One for All, still talking about Yoichi is his, and he's still harping at it at 13:25, where like he's like, you know, you took Yoichi away from me, so my victory is going to be empty now. Like it was kind of interesting that like even now, like One for All's twisted idea of I don't know how to put it perfectly, but like his twisted like attachment to Yoichi is still there. You know what I mean?
I mean, why wouldn't it be? I mean, they was like kind of like, I don't want to call it 100% the 100% or 1000% basis of who he is, but like we definitely know this is the reason why he's going after One for All, because One for All is technically his. He legitimately gave birth to the thing that's causing him a lot of problems. And basically all it started out with was giving his brother, showing his brother the little bit, even if it wasn't a lot and it wasn't really a lot, the little bit of sympathy that he gave his brother by giving him a quirk is what did him in. And he was unable to get his quirk back after he gave it to him because it was his possession, and his possession didn't want to be his anymore. His entire basis of like his messed up desire to want to own people is really what did him in. His messed up desire, thinking that's what I'm saying. Like, at least for him, his quirk is kind of manifested in his personality.
Yeah.
Him specifically, it's an extreme example of it, but his quirk is manifested in his personality.
Yeah, I hardly agree. Okay. 10:14, this was more me asking you for help and understanding something. What does One for All mean at 10:14 when he says, for a soul that could one day diminish his willpower? Like, what is he talking about there? It makes no sense to me. And I've got to go back and watch it now because I don't fully remember what I was confused about. But that sentence, I know he's talking about Shigaraki, but I don't understand what he's saying about Shigaraki.
I think I said this earlier. Maybe I didn't say too well, but like he, in his search for Shigaraki, he needed something. I mentioned he may have mentioned before that willpower is a dangerous thing for him specifically because he can't control people who have the will to act on their own. It's a part of the reason why he manipulated Shigaraki as thoroughly as he did. he needed to deal with All Might because All Might's will was the strongest he's ever encountered, and it's through All Might he learned about willpower being dangerous in the first place. It's a part of the reason like All Might was a problem for him because he couldn't break him. And then we see him break All Might during his second fight with him before All Might lost his power. Basically, when he revealed that Tomura Shigaraki is his master's grandson, and that broke All Might, that's the reason why All For One was smiling from ear to no ear to no ear. During that fight, it was a part of the reason why he was looking when he says for a soul that could one day diminish his willpower. He was trying to find a way to beat All Might, not physically but mentally. He was searching for a way to do so because willpower was a dangerous thing. I think he even goes on to say that willpower is like something that he needs to be able to overcome. For that most intense emotion, the mental process that arises to put the brakes on the id, the wellspring of the libido. I saw this a seedbed for fermenting the primordial urge to hate.
Yeah, so but why does he? I don't. How's that tie into Shigaraki? Like, Shigaraki has a stronger willpower possibly than Deku, although I don't think it turned out that way. But I mean, it was similar to Deku. But if I had to pick, I would say Deku had the stronger willpower.
He was just manipulating. So, he was pretending while he was actually.
It's for a soul that could one day diminish his willpower. So he's trying to diminish All Might's willpower. Why does he care about All Might's willpower?
He can't defeat him, and the only way he can.
All Might doesn't have. All Might doesn't have All For One anymore.
He's talking about All Might before All Might lost everything. He had been because we see the All Might that he's looking at and the version of himself that he's talking about. That's a long time ago. All Might was always a consistent problem. All Might was literally, as you call him, the symbol of peace. All Might was a consistent wall. And because All Might's will was just greater than his, I'm guessing is what he's claiming here. He could not best All Might. So in order to best him, he needed to find a way to break his will. And because All Might will could not be broken because he couldn't find a way to do it. That's why he sought out. That's why he sought out Tomura's father, and then put into his father's head that he needs to have another child, and that's basically what he took Shigaraki to do.
Okay, so why did he want He wanted Shigaraki to impact All Might's willpower.
Yeah,
but that's sort of irrelevant because like All Might's not a player in that way anymore.
But no, that second fight that he had was the reason. Was like the I wouldn't call it penultimate, but it was like leading up to that point in which he did in fact break All Might's will to fight. Because he still sees All Might as a wall. He still sees All Might as a barrier. He sees All Might as the ultimate thing he needs to overcome. That's how it's always been.
But he never did break. He never broke All Might. All Might was fighting.
But no, he did break him for a minute.
All the way to the end. He broke his body, but like All Might was still like in there, like doing everything he could.
Yeah, at least he was trying to break his will to fight, in which he did do it for a couple of seconds. It wasn't like a permanent thing, but he managed to get into All Might's head. That's really all he was trying to do. He was trying to find a way to get into All Might's head, and the only way.
But by the time he did, it didn't matter anymore.
All Might was still fighting, still dangerous. It wasn't like
when did he do it then? Because I thought you meant like 2 or 3 episodes ago when he fought.
No, it was like I forgot what season it was. Before Deku became a player, basically, he was the main character we're following with the One for All power. That last fight that when All Might was fighting him and they took out that entire city.
Yeah.
Like when All Might was like literally just a skinny bone skeleton. It was that fight. He was trying to break his will there. It didn't succeed 100% because All Might still got back up and fought. But he did break All Might long enough that All Might fell to his knees and felt like a failure. He was just trying to break his mind. All For One was trying to do. Because All For One knew he couldn't beat him physically. All Might was always a wall. No matter what version of All Might we're talking about, he still saw All Might as a barrier. That's why in this season he went out of his way to torture him, because he still saw All Might as a problem. He never got over that. It's a part of the thing. I think it's just about All For One's brain. He can't get over he will never get over anything that gets in his way unless he completely destroys it. And for All Might, that's his kryptonite. And All Might knew that too, because why he stood out there in front of him, even if it was gonna kill him. But like, he stood out there in a way because he knew All Might couldn't ignore. I mean, All for One couldn't ignore him.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all. I mean, he was just trying to break All Might's will. It probably wasn't explained to 100%. I don't know how you could explain that, but I feel like he was looking for a way to break he was looking for a way to break All Might's will, and he only knew of one way to do that, which was get into All Might's personal circle, and he only knew of Nana, his mentor that All Might really looked up to and really got attached to. So like, how is it that he can use her to break him? Get her grandson. He was looking for his granddaughter. I'm pretty sure originally he was trying to get his granddaughter, but unfortunately, because his granddaughter, according to him, was too old to manipulate, he manipulated the father to have another
kid. Okay.
And he was going to use the son to manipulate All Might, but not manipulate, but just.
I thought my interpretation of it, which is obviously incorrect, was that he was picking Shigaraki as part of his mission to defeat Deku, and that he needed Shigaraki to have a really strong will so he could take Shigaraki over, which made no sense for me. And I didn't understand why. I just didn't understand it. Okay.
No, he still bred. No, you're right. Kind of. He still bred Shigaraki to defeat Deku, but he wasn't Shigaraki. The initial plan for Shigaraki was not to defeat Deku, because as far as we know, All for One wouldn't have had a reason to know about Deku. Before, when Shigaraki was a little kid, that was when he was trying to use him against All Might. That was the main reason why he had Shigaraki there. I think he just saw a secondary use for him after the fact that he could use him for too, because using what other way to get underneath your hero, the guy who's getting underneath your skin, take somebody who's well related to somebody that you look up to and admire. But I think Deku was a secondary thing, because that's when he realized. I'm still very confused. I wonder how even All for One knew about Deku. Because even research can only take you so far, and it's not like Deku was up for being chosen for One for All. He only got chosen because All Might happened to meet Deku off chance, and Deku inspired him, and that's what forced All Might to change his mind about who he was going to give One for All to.
Right.
Deku was not the first choice.
Okay. Let's keep going. Shigaraki was actually heroic as a child. I thought it was super interesting. At 11-13, the footage that they show there, you see Shigaraki pushing his friends out of the way of the speeding truck.
Man, I'm not really surprised by that, because at
11-13, just in case you're, or 11-11, I'm not paused at right now, in case you're curious.
No, I remember that moment. I guess I'm not really surprised that he was heroic at that age, because I think it was said at some point that he wanted to be a superhero, and he wanted to be a hero, and he was waiting for his quirk to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was back when we first saw Shigaraki's background, and it wasn't revealed to be this messed up. But I think we saw that before Shigaraki kind of destroyed everything, and he thought his path had been chosen. Again,
right.
Messed up childhood, and it's amazing that a quirk did that much damage to him too. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. I'm just saying that I'm not that shocked. I'm not that it's not a good scene. It's a really great scene. I'm just saying it wasn't that too shocking that he was pushing his friends out of the way. But those two were his best friends, and unfortunately, those were also chosen by All for One. This guy's a jerk.
Yeah. And at 11:30. 11 minutes and 30 seconds, they show the scene of One for All taking Shigaraki's hand. And I don't think this might have been the exact moment necessarily, but I just realized that when One for All, at some point or another, One for All probably reached his hand out to take Shigaraki's, and as he did, he stole his quirk and gave him the crappy one.
I think he did it. I think he just took his quirk when he was a baby, and then eventually at some point met him down the line and gave him decay. I think
Why
that's
would he? Why would he hold his hand if he knew that he had the decay quirk? I think he would have held his hand.
and that's what I'm saying. He took his quirk. He took whatever quirk that he had as a baby away because like he met Shigaraki right after he was born from the looks of it, because they show All For One reach his hand out to a bald-headed baby. Sorry. He reached his hand out to a bald-headed baby. But then we see him show up to Shigaraki later. And I think I see he's like Shigaraki's walking home and he's like, "Why don't you hold my hand for a bit?" He gave Shigaraki a quirk much later. I just think he took his original quirk away much earlier, before Shigaraki was old enough. It's like why he would grab Shigaraki's hand. I don't know when he gave it to him, but it was definitely before. It was definitely before All For One met him in the middle of an alleyway to claim him, quote unquote, as his protege. So I want to say, I think it has to be when Shigaraki met an old man, top hat in the middle of the street. That's my headcanon of like when he got decay. At least that's
it just never like. I'm sorry to cut off. It just never occurred to me when I saw him taking his hand. I thought it was insidious, you know, and I was like, oh, what a jerk, like taking his hand like he's his best buddy and stuff like that. But it never occurred to me until recently how insidious it would be, because how dangerous it is to take the hand of somebody like One For All, you know what I mean, who can use that contact to steal and add quirks to you. And I was just like, that's so, I couldn't believe that I'd missed that, you know what I mean? But I was like, yeah, that's a really bad idea that he didn't know he was, a really bad choice that he didn't know he was taking, because touching his hand is like awful, you know what I mean? Like it's the worst thing you can do. It's like basically giving your whole life over to him in a literal way, not just a symbolic way, like it would be for taking someone else's hand, you know? So anyway, I thought that was not mind-blowing, but a little revelation moment for me that maybe everybody else in the world has already had.
Really quick revelation before you move on. It's like, I'm thinking back on the whole, Shigaraki coming back. I don't think that Shigaraki did jump over to Deku. And well, there's two ways for that. I mean, he could easily jump it over. But that quirk, if the whole idea that they kind of like hinted at, because like, according to All For One, when he destroyed Shigaraki, I'm going through this really fast, but when he destroyed Shigaraki's psyche, the K disappeared along with him, right? Like that was a really, really weird thing to have him mention, is that the K disappeared. And his original quirk was taken. What if his id is, like you said before, like maybe you're right. What if his id just somehow manifests? Like there's enough of a piece of his personality that attaches itself to his original quirk inside his All For One, and he just bust out.
Yeah, you know what?
I don't think he's in. I don't think he's in Deku. I think he is in All For One. I think he's probably gonna get his quirk and then run out.
If the vestiges are the reason that Deku had his powers, then if the vestige of Shigaraki moved to Deku, that would be the reason that All For One did not have the power.
That's the other thing too. Like if he did jump
Deku
ship,
lost his power when the vestige was transferred. So if the vestige of Shigaraki was transferred to Deku, then Deku would not have the power anymore. I mean, All For One would not have the power anymore. Deku would.
Yeah, but that's the other thing I was thinking about too. It's like there's a way that Shigaraki could have jumped ship, but I'm willing to 100% believe that I don't think the vestige with the quirk that Shigaraki originally had jumped ship. I think it's still in there within All For One. And All For One, because it's kind of the same thing as like with the whole All For One thing. I'm gonna let you go back to what you're saying. I just wanted to get this out.
Oh no, I'm done. I think that it's very possible that Shigaraki is now in Deku. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is wrong. I think it's more believable to think that. I think when All For One thought he had shattered his psyche, a piece of him must have still found the quirk in there, and then attached itself and then reformed. It's probably like reforming right now, and either one or two things has happened. Is like you said before, that really rough separation they had. Maybe the quirk just decided to leave with Deku because it knew Deku. But I'm also willing to 100% believe that. I'm pretty sure it's still in there, and and Shigaraki managed to find it. Like, I'm not even gonna say he found it before he got destroyed. I'm just saying that maybe pieces of himself managed to seep deep inside the psyche, um, and grab a hold of the quirk, and it's taking its time to manifest because, like, All for One was still inside Shigaraki, like you had claimed, like rightfully so many podcasts ago, that he's still in there. Like, it's still the same possibility that Shigaraki's doing the exact same thing. Now, how Shigaraki's gonna climb back to the top of his own body still remains to be seen, which is probably why maybe I don't know how they would make it so that Shigaraki and his quirk could jump ship, but there's no, it's not impossible. I'm just saying that it's like, I don't actually would believe more that Shigaraki is just gonna fight for his own body back versus being inside Deku. Who really knows?
Right.
But I don't think that the final fight's gonna be Shigaraki versus Deku versus All for One. I think it's gonna be Deku and Shigaraki versus All for One. That's my
If
thought
Shigaraki
process.
comes back, he's going to be siding with Deku. Deku is the only friend Shigaraki has ever had at this point, like, other than his friends before he got corrupted.
Did he kill them, or did he just not go back to them after he killed his parents?
I mean, he killed plenty, but we haven't seen a moment exactly where he killed those two friends.
I'm only asking because I feel like maybe they could still be alive, maybe, and they've been looking for him this entire time. Because like it's not ridiculous to assume that Shigaraki went missing, and then they were looking for him for years.
And it's pretty possible that they got over it. You know what I mean? That like he was not that big of a friend to them. But it's also possible that like they see him on the TV now since the whole world is watching and like are rooting him on. Or hoping for him to be better.
They're still his best friend in the world. It's like
and Shigaraki probably looks a lot different now than he did at one point, but whatever.
I still feel like they could see him and see the little boy that they knew. But okay, the episode ends like Spear says, like it's like an in-game thing that I wasn't really thinking about.
You said the word.
Shut up. Well, it's gonna end there with. I find it kind of funny that there was a monologue being played as people are showing up after like Ares' horn reverses Deku's injuries. I find it funny that Mineta is the one that's speaking, and he's like, whenever I hear that Deku's out here acting badass, I have to get in here too. I just find it funny that it's Mineta that just says all that. I'm like, why is this Mineta? Like get out of here, man.
They need to do something with him, and he's so lame that the only thing he could do is talk. So even though it was out of character, they're like, we got to shove something in for Mineta to do.
I don't think that's out of character. It's just kind of funny.
I'm just kind of jerk because I know you like Mineta.
I mean, Mineta is not like it's not that I like him. It's just like I want more from him, and I know I'm not gonna get it. But it's freaking cool.
I still have things, just so you know.
Huh?
I still have things, just so you know.
I thought you said you were done.
Nope.
Well, continue. I was letting you go earlier. Like, oh.
Okay. I was probably saying I was done with some other point. We already talked about him taking over the world as a hollow goal, so I can cross that off my list. At 1525 and forward for about 30 seconds, I thought it was a little disturbing the way President Mike was, and actually most of the other people, everyone except for Eraserhead, talked about Kurogiri as if it was a machine or an it. He talks about breaking it down. He talks about Kurogiri as, he refers to him as illicit loot at one point. He really seems to, like, word wise, in his words only, I'm not saying everything, but in his words, he's treating him like an it, as a piece of machinery, literally, like is the language he's using to describe Kurogiri, knowing full well that that's one of his best friends under there. And Eraserhead at 65 calls him Yamada, which is his actual name, doesn't even refer to him as Kurogiri, but refers to him by his, shall we say, canonical name. And I thought that was really interesting. And you know that Eraserhead is forcing that language and that perspective because he's crying as he says it. But I was curious what you thought about that attempt at cold-bloodedness by President Mike. President Mike.
It makes sense. He literally, he doesn't see him as a person anymore. He thought he had thought they had broke him free, but no, he didn't. Like he's a Nomu, and that's what technically Nomus are. They're just things. I think President Mike had just broken down in his own mind that that's what he is. That he's no longer his friend. I mean,
I don't think he really believes that though because of the tears. I think he's
hurt.
I think he's trying to make himself believe it, but I don't think he really believes it.
I don't think a part of me thinks he may believe it somewhat, but it's not like a reinforced idea that he's like. That
well, especially because we've seen him emerge from that state. Do you know what I mean? As something a little more sentient. You know what I mean?
He said that was a fluke.
He did say that was a fluke, but I think he's trying to talk himself into believing that stuff. I don't think he's buying what he's selling. I think he's trying real hard to sell it, but I don't think he's actually buying it.
I mean, what would you do in that situation? Your best friend that you thought was dead all these years, you kind of find out he's been a villain, and not even just a villain, a freaking zombie. After all this time.
I don't know, dude. I'd be pretty upset, but it was just an interesting little note that admissible detail. You know what I mean? That like, because he forces it so hard that like that's what's going on. That he's treating him like a machine, but like, I don't think he really believes that, and I think we're supposed to feel like he doesn't really believe that. I don't want him to believe it because it's a really unheroic way to deal with it, no matter what. But you see even after he seems to acknowledge his humanity, you know, through Aizawa and everything, you still see people like them speaking to him as if they have control over him. They're like, what if you lose control of him? You know, and like, we have to do this while we still control him, you know, like even after they've pretty much acknowledged his humanity, they're still talking about him like he's a thing, which
I mean,
he's
stuck in between. Yamada's stuck in between a spot of like being Kurogiri and being himself, and like I mean, I get maybe they should have used different wording for like instead of control like he's still broken through, but at the same time, Yamada isn't gonna stay Yamada forever. He only has moments of clarity that are very apparently short-lived. Even though,
but maybe sorry to interrupt. There's a physical thing controlling them. They're not just brainwashed. There's a physical like communication hub or something that we learned controls them, right? Because we had that other one that lost touch with the control station at the first Nomu that we saw that just went sort of brain dead. Remember that?
Yeah, but I think that was I don't think it was a communication hub. It was just more like because like they were brainwashed or whatever to only respond to Shigaraki, and they only responded to his voice. And I think the only other way that he did it was through like an intercom or whatever like that maybe was on their person. I don't think it was like an actual like intercom because like they were flesh beings basically. They weren't they weren't really like I don't think they were like reporting into a point somewhere. Because I don't think they were. This is my understanding. But I don't think they were just responding specifically to Shigaraki and All for One. Kind of like how Giganta Makia was until Giganta Makia changed sides and then died, I think.
Well, it's possible that once they beat All for One, he regains himself because the thing that was controlling him went away.
I don't know. I still feel like because they call him a Nomu.
It's also possible. I'm going to throw one more idea out there. I'm really sorry I just interrupted you.
No, we can continue.
They state straight out that he is his purpose. Like when he does have a moment of clarity, he states that his purpose is to protect Shigaraki. It's also possible that he goes to the good side because Shigaraki goes to the good side.
I mean, I guess at the same time, it's like he wouldn't really be much
Mhm.
of a use to the heroes, regardless, because he only will listen to Shigaraki.
But if he finds out that Shigaraki is inside of Deku, then his goal now becomes to protect Deku.
I still think he wouldn't really listen to Deku. He only would listen to Shigaraki. But I see what you're trying to say. I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like President Mike was just in distress. And for the most part, even if it is unheroic, I think it just shows that how human heroes can be. And in President Mike's situation, because President Mike has been shown to lose it. He has been shown on multiple occasions to lose it, like mentally.
Yeah.
He like, so I feel like him calling. I mean, even if it wasn't heroic, it was just one of those situations where it was just his most. He was very vulnerable in that moment, mainly because up to this point he had assumed his best friend was dead. Only recently did he discover his best friend's alive, and he doesn't know how to handle that. He even says that like we can't go on being called Class 2A. So it seems like President Mike is still holding on to a lot of his childhood, and that may be where some of that, where he's not buying what he's selling is kind of coming from. That he still will love to hang on to the idea of his best friend, and them going on as the trio of 2A. But again,
Mhm.
I understand what you're talking about, but continue. We are literally almost 12 o'clock.
Yeah, this is why I jumped in. Um, a lot of my notes at the end are small ones, but at 1735, what do you think when Eraser, his first question was if Monoma was still up and able to fight, and they said no, he's injured. What do you suppose Eraser had in mind for Monoma? I know that we don't have a lot to go off, but I didn't know if you had any theory there about what his plan would have been for Monoma.
My obvious
If he,
take would be to copy Kurogiri. I think because
oh
because
yeah,
Kurogiri couldn't be controlled 100%. If Monoma just took a piece of, I think his DNA. No, if Monoma touched Kurogiri, he could become the warp. He did it
yeah, that's
once
a good
before.
point. And then they wouldn't be contingent, but they kind of get all the warps they need. Like who else did they've just warped everybody at once. But I see what you mean. That's not a bad idea.
No, I don't. I don't
Uh,
think Eraserhead thought that he was gonna. Sorry, really quick. I don't think Eraserhead thought he was gonna be able to continue to control Kurogiri. I think he was probably thinking that the moment they got to the school, maybe they were gonna lose complete. They were gonna lose the clarity that he got. But continue.
okay. This one is just really small. At 1815, 1820, and 1830, do you know who any of those people are that like want to stand up and fight? Are they intentionally nobodies or are they characters that I'm just not remembering? 1815, 1820, and 1830 are various characters that are standing. And I was curious because like they just seem to be bringing everybody in. And I'm like, what obscure episode of this show did a character with 15 seconds on screen like
Um,
did they appear in or did they just not appear? Especially that first one, 1815. He looks like somebody. I just have no idea who.
the guy with the All Might shirt.
The guy with the white spiky hair and the big rectangular nose at 1815, and the white hair or gray hair, I should say.
Oh, you don't remember him?
No.
He's he's the hero that retired after the damage that was done by the villains.
Oh right.
The guy with the
Oh,
big
that's awesome.
arms.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked you that now because that's kind of cool. All right, hang on a sec.
That's for the guy. That's for the kid with the All Might shirt. That's the kid that that was when Deku. They're trying to bring Deku back to UA after they were having all the civilians
Uh huh.
crowded in one spot. He was one of the people that Uraraka persuaded to let Deku stay. He wanted Deku out.
Okay, so 1830 is. Tell me that again. 1830 is the guy with the All Might shirt. It took me a second to remember which one had the All Might shirt. I actually didn't register that was an All Might shirt until you said it.
But no, he was one of the guys that didn't want Deku inside the UA structure because like
Oh, okay.
everybody had at a point known about All for One and what they wanted with Deku. And they thought Deku was like
Why is
Hmm?
why is the shirt off his back useful there?
He was giving it to the heroes that were injured, basically.
For what, like bandages or something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think
That's
basically he was giving the shirt off his back, as you literally just said.
Yeah, I got the gesture of the shirt off his back, but I was just like, well, okay, but why is the shirt valuable?
I
I
think it's
didn't
just
get
to
that
give
part.
people like if they have an injury, kind of like how Mineta had like that thing wrapped around his eye. They didn't know he had an eye injury, but you know it's kind of like that. The heroes that are still capable of fighting, if they need a
Mhm.
splint or whatever like that, it's kind of like what that was for, because that's what everybody else kind of just showed up for too. But as far as like anybody else that was any importance, I don't think there's anybody that would have been in other than that one hero that said he was a nobody, which I didn't recognize him at all. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm willing to
What about
bet.
the one at 1820 though? The little kid with the dark hair that has that spike ability apparently, where he can make a spike or a piece of metal or something with his hand.
You mean the
Who
nobody?
is
I
that?
think he was a nobody,
Let me
but
join in the fight. He's next to the hero that retired.
I think you
He
talking about the nobody, right? The guy who said he was nobody. He's not a famous hero, or whatever.
No, he's a little kid. He looks like he's like 6. I don't think he says he's a nobody. He says, "Let me join in the fight," and he's immediately after the guy that retired. I'm pretty sure it's a character of the ones that I saw. He was the one because they have him demonstrate his quirk. That made me pretty sure that he was a character, and they were having him demonstrate his quirk for people that couldn't remember who he was. 1820, 18 minutes and 20 seconds.
I'm not
Little
famous, but I'm
kid,
still a hero.
spiky, sand-looking black hair.
I'm not famous, but I'm still a hero. That guy.
Probably not. Let me go watch the whole thing again because you can't apparently
I'm
go to
at 18,
1820.
19. I'm seeing this
Okay,
kid.
yeah.
He's someone with spiky hair. Like I said, I'm not famous, but I'm still a
Me
hero.
too.
Those are the words.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. You're correct. I apologize profusely.
But what I want to say is that it's possible, 100% possible. He's a vigilante. I don't know because I haven't watched it or know absolutely nothing about it. But it's 100% possible that he's in vigilante because there's a lot of character crossover that happens with that show that
Mhm.
I hear. And I'm betting that if he is showing up next to Gutman, whatever his name is, it's
Mhm.
possible that he was shown in Vigilante, and that he might have been a hero there.
Okay, that's good because I didn't pay a lot of attention to a vigilante, and I remember very little of it.
I didn't either. I don't know what's going on. I just know that Eraserhead shows up over there. Midnight shows up
Okay.
over there at some point. I think you see origins of Endeavor when he was a vigilante himself. But like other than that, I don't really know much about. I need to watch it eventually, and I'm probably gonna watch it after we're done with My Hero. But I think like either he says he's not famous, but I'm still a hero. I think he's a nobody, but there's also a possibility that I'm wrong and that he's a vigilante and he has a hero name over there that I'm pretty sure people will probably recognize. I haven't watched any reactions of people that recognize him yet, so I'm willing to bet that either he is an obscure reference to vigilante or he's just a nobody.
Okay.
That's my thought.
I'm almost done.
Mhm.
Eri breaks off her horn, possibly damaging her quirk to save Goku. I thought that was a really interesting gesture. This is just a little funny, stupid thing that only somebody like me would say, but you know when they say you can't die until you hear Eri sing?
Uh-huh.
I drew a parallel between that and the old phrase, "It's not over till the fat lady sings." Just a stupid little
that's
joke.
insulting to Eri. She's not a fat lady.
Ari's not fat, but it's just like that's all I could think of is like it's not over till the fat lady sings. So we know it's over when Ari sings. Deku is now fighting on embers. I think that's cool, kind of a cool clapback to when All Might did that. Like Deku, like one more parallel, like where Deku is similar to All Might. I thought that was pretty awesome. Again, I was a big fan of this episode. You know, like I'm not always a fan of this kind of stuff, but like I was a big fan of this episode. At 23:30, there's a black-haired guy holding Deku's hand and apparently helping him. Given how significant hand-holding is in this series, especially these last couple episodes, I was really curious if you knew who that was. I really wanted to know who that was, but I don't recognize him at all either. Do you?
Oh, the previews for next episode?
Yeah, in the previews at 23:30. There's like a battle-scarred guy that is like running and holding Deku's hand, and I don't know who it is. And I don't know why they'd bring him in if it wasn't a relevant character at this point, because I don't know. It just seems
Man,
important.
you really don't like Ida, do you?
That's Ida?
That is Ida with that they've animated him while moving.
Okay.
You can tell by the
Ida,
eyebrow. You can tell by the eyebrow.
I thought it might have been Ida's brother.
Ida's brother is bound by a wheelchair, though.
I know. I didn't get that part necessarily, but it didn't look a ton like Ida, but it looked enough like Ida where I was like, it doesn't look like Ida to me, but maybe it's his brother. Although I didn't get why it would be his brother, like that made no sense to me, but I just couldn't. It didn't look a lot like Ida to me. It didn't look like Ida's costume, or I didn't see the things on his feet really, so I just wasn't really sure who that was.
It's all burnt when he was flying around with Todoroki. Well, not burnt, frozen
Yeah.
over.
It wasn't. It just didn't. I didn't fully register. Why do you think they show Hawks in the preview, like Hawks and Tokoyami? It looks like Hawks' eyes are closing. I was like, I hope they're not going to kill him or something. I have a feeling they're not, but like it was just weird how they like focus on him and they focus on Hawks' eyes slowly closing. I don't have a timestamp for that one, but it's like within a couple seconds of the other one.
I thought that was All Might's eyes slowly closing.
I don't think so. The time that's definitely not. The timestamp that you can start at is 23:36 when Tokoyami and Hawks are there.
23 what?
And then they. Oh, you're right.
That
And then the
looks
next
like All
scene.
Might. Like this facial structure is like all wrong for Hawks. And
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so All Might, we know that would be a bit. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense because All Might, they already warned All Might, like, look, if you close your eyes, like, you're done.
I don't know if All Might.
Remember they said that straight up. They said if you fall asleep, it's all over.
Yeah.
In the last episode, so maybe that's why they're teasing that. I'm not saying he's going to die or anything, but I think that's the intrigue that they're trying to get out of that. Now that I know, it just looked to have a blonde person that was beat up and a bloody face come up in the form of Hawks, and then cut to that. I just logically thought that was Hawks for a second. It was just my mistake. Okay. This next one could take a second to talk about, and I apologize. But I was trying to show this the parallels between, because Jesse's a big Marvel movie fan. I was trying to show Jesse the scene that reminded me of Endgame, so she could see how similar it was. And as I was doing it, it showed me just how fragmented the action in this episode is. As maybe my only criticism, like they kept cutting to that last scene where everybody comes to like back Deku up, and then they cut away, and they actually do it, I think, either 3 or 4 times, and it pulled me out of that inspirational final moment that they kept doing that. I wish perhaps they had packed that action in a little bit more consistently than they did.
I mean, I think
so.
Just to be a one last hurrah. I mean, I'm sorry that it took you out of the action. I don't remember it.
Just a little bit.
Back and forth, like
they broke it up, like they stretched that last action scene where everybody's coming in to back him up. They stretch it over the course of like 5 minutes of the episode, believe it or not.
I mean, that's interesting. I do remember them cutting back and forth. I guess I just don't remember it being over them coming out of the dark shell. But I guess that would make sense that that's where they were going to do it. You're right there, of all places.
Mm-hmm. It was like, I was very, very enthusiastic about it, but I didn't realize 100% just how disjointed it was until I went to show it to Jesse, and I'm like, Jesse, like, watch this scene, look how like similar it is to Endgame. And then I started playing it, and I was like, oh, like they just cut away. I'll come back when they come back. And then like 3 minutes went by, and I'm like, okay, they're back. And I started playing it again, and I'm like, oh, they cut away again. That was just a little quick tease, and then like I went back to watching it, and then like I'm like, all right, Jesse, it's back this time. And then the same thing happened, and I had to like pull her back in a third time at least. It happened several times, and I was just like, oh. I think given how exciting the scene is and how poignant it was, even though it was an Endgame kind of copy, like I still think it would have been better to have more of that happening in one cut and then like pulling away over and over again.
I mean, well, it seemed like the scenes they are throwing in between those things were just going back at the base. But sorry, but continue. I know you need to end this.
This is my last one. And it's just a little observation that we can talk about as much or as little as you want, because I know you have to go to bed. I don't have to go to bed necessarily immediately, but you do. The final fight is going to be really big because all the characters are there, like, or at least the 1A characters are there. I didn't see how many non-1A characters were there, but I imagine it'll be at least some, which is cool. But it'll be a little bit less climactic than it could be because no one there is going to be at full power. Everybody is going to be like down for the count in some way, shape, or form. So that's slightly a bummer, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think it's how it has to be after what Deku did. I think what's more disappointing for me, and as we end this here, while I understand the narrative reason for it, it's kind of just full circle. I really don't like that. I know Deku's gonna be powerless at the end of all this. I'm like, I really would have loved for him to have had a quirk. And I think it's kind of like why I'm hanging on to this whole idea that maybe Deku did have one and he was stolen. Because I've been hanging on to this idea for the entirety of the dang show, and nothing has made me hope for it more than the whole idea that, you know, for some reason Shigaraki had his quirk stolen, and I'm like, the chance that Deku could have had his stolen too. But like the logical gymnastics that I would need to pull to make that happen, unless they do it themselves, it's like, why would One for All seek out Deku earlier than he already has? And that's kind of like where the problem is, like, for my whole idea of that. I don't know. I'm just like, I think for me, it's like I would have loved for Deku to have a quirk. While I understand everything about, like, so much cooler if he didn't by the end of it, I understand the whole idea of, like, you know, it all has to end here. All for One has to disappear. All for One for all have to disappear here. It's just gonna suck for somebody like Deku because, as you've already said, elegantly, he's destroyed his body. Well, not destroyed it, but like he's gonna have some scars from this. We already see it on his arms. Like, logically speaking, Deku isn't gonna really be able to do a lot for Hero Society beyond this point. There's only like two ways that this could go: is that either Deku gains something from this, I don't know what he would gain, or two, Deku retires after this, and the whole speech of him being a world's greatest hero happens and ends in high school.
Can I ask a really dumbass question?
Sure.
It's not a troll question. It's going to sound like a troll question, but it's actually me being a little dumb. When is the exact moment that Deku lost All for One? Why is he on Embers right now? When did he lose All for One?
When he crashed All for One into Shigaraki.
He sent the vestiges in there, but when did he send the actual All for One in there? I thought
those people are the powers. That's why when they were saying when they were sending them into them, they were afraid of Shigaraki taking control of the powers. The vestiges hold the power.
I got that he gave up their powers, like their specific powers, when he lost them, but when did he lose specifically the All for One power?
The All for One power
is it when he sent? Did it go in with first? Is that what happened?
No, the All for One powers are the powers. Are those powers?
I thought those were kind of like tag-alongs from the powers, that like when you use it, like your vestige follows it.
I don't get what you're asking, but basically, at least from
I thought the vestige. I thought those were components of the power, like just a side effect of the power is that your vestige is carried on with the quirk and like becomes a piece of the power, but like that the core stockpiling quirk is separate from all the little pieces that you pick up along the way.
Stockpile and yes and no, but the passing on, yeah, their personalities, whatever, come along with it. But All for One is literally all those quirks in one. They are literally all.
But it was there before those were there. Whatever was there before those quirks were there should still remain. That's what I mean. They seem like they're added on to the original.
The way I said, like, they were the quirk because, like, Yoichi, his brother, literally said
Yeah.
that once Deku got it, they manifested. And unfortunately, because of the manifestation, their manifestation, like, Deku can't pass One For All. I still was under suspicion that all those quirks were literally One For All because, like, One For All wouldn't be anything without them, wouldn't it? One For All can't do anything without, like, those quirks being in there. Like, One For All doesn't do anything. If it does anything, it just stockpiles. But even with that idea, like, what does stockpiling do? Because because if you take all those quirks out of it, One For All is just stockpiling, giving quirk. That's all it would do. I mean, if Deku, I mean, that's why I said, like, maybe if Deku does gain something from this, maybe you're right. Maybe the idea isn't that Deku loses One For All, he loses, but I'm very confused because, like, I thought One For All was literally their power is all in one.
Yeah,
that's how I
would say it. But he lost a piece of it at a time with the first one. My theory that I'm gonna probably roll with for this is that that the true All For One power, the core original one, was when was with First, and that we know for sure that he gave up First, and that the moment that he gave up First is when he lost the stockpiling quirk.
I mean, he sent in Gear Shift to the test, and then he sent everybody else in, but then Float didn't go with them, and they disappeared. I was just under the impression that all of them were, like, they were all building up One For All, One For All,
Mm-hmm.
and then like they were all building up One For All, and they were the quirk. Cause All Might has a vestige in there that he doesn't like, that he swaps in between with for some really weird reason. But he doesn't add anything. He doesn't really add anything to the quirk, and they didn't manifest when they were in All Might, which is also strange. A lot of people ask that question, but I was under the impression that All For One was each for those quirks in one thing, because, like, they didn't refer to themselves as just individual quirks. They referred to themselves as All For One.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, All For One, we know that it's at least partially possible to transfer All For One in pieces.
Yeah, but I think when he transferred that last week, he lost it, didn't it? Because, like, why would he be on Embers?
Right, that's what I mean. So we know that he actually transferred it. I think that the moment he transferred it, that piece of the All For One quirk was when he transferred the original vestige. I think it wasn't until he transferred the original vestige that he truly lost the All For One quirk.
I think he lost it when he transferred them all. I don't think All For One is specifically just one.
Well, he did transfer most of them at the same time, so our answers aren't necessarily exclusive.
I mean, if he did lose it when he transferred Yoichi, the first guy, I mean, that would make sense. I'm not saying it wouldn't. I'm just saying I honestly thought, like, he would still have pieces of it, because he was transferring abilities out of himself into Shigaraki to crash into that core. I was under the impression, because, like, I mean, they were really afraid of them doing that and Shigaraki getting a hold of them. But like I said, it doesn't really, our argument doesn't go here nor there. I wanted the impression that he lost it, but there's also a possibility, like you said, that maybe for some really weird unknown reason he kept stockpile and the share. It's really freaking weird. I don't know what he could do. Well, I mean, Deku's responsible. He could probably find a way to use it, but still, it'd be really weird if that's what actually happens. But, like, that'd be really weird because they make it sound like Deku, like, they make it look like Deku's gonna lose. And I feel like based on the way things are going before we ended here, I think One For All and All For One gotta disappear. I don't think they can exist in this world because, like, they cause problems.
Yeah, they're on their way to moving out for sure. Like, both of them are set up to go. Like, Deku's already lost his. They're both in All For One. Everybody's got to destroy All For One. All for One is weak. They're going to destroy All for One, and then it's going to be all gone. Deku's going to use up his embers fighting him, and he's not even going to have embers of All for One at the end of this. I think that's where it pretty clearly is headed.
I'm just upset that, I understand narratively why, full circle, Deku didn't start the show with powers. Theoretically, it means he shouldn't end the show with them. I'm just upset that
that's what happened.
That's what's gotta happen. I know a lot of people were predicting it, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that whole idea because I was like, why? Why does Deku gotta lose so much? It's like Deku didn't have much of anything. I mean, he had his wit, yeah, but it's like it's clear that at least in this world, because we're not talking about like DC or Marvel, like where you could be really smart and still be dangerous. I don't know in this world if that's the same case.
Yeah.
I mean, Deku's kind of shown that you can definitely be smart, but Deku also had the advantage that he had a power to go along with it. All Might's the only one that's shown that you could fight without a quirk, but All Might's advantage was that he already fought All for One all those years, so he knew how he thought. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like Deku doesn't exactly have an advantage that I would sit there and say he'll be all right in the end. But
well, everybody is there.
Smash Bros reference, and with that, we're going to end it here. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week.
See you, everybody.